everybody. Sorry for I had to restart the countdown. I had pretty much exactly, well, not even, I had pretty much just enough time to get everything ready, get my layouts ready, clean my glasses, which is a lot harder to pull off than it should be. Where's my button for my webcam? Hey, hello, hey, hello, everybody. I'm Super Train Station H. I'm an autistic gamer and writer, and today we're going to first be playing a little Revenge of the Gator on the with my analog pocket here. That's just the warm-up game. We'll be playing that for a few minutes. The real show, the real star of the show today, is going to be Donkey Kong. Oh my gosh, my chat is below my ticker. Hold on. You have to fix that. There we go. There we go. Now chat should be... Let me check with this. Okay, chat is now mostly above the ticker. Kind of. I don't know. I'll fix that next stream. But we're going to be playing some Donkey Kong for the Game Boy, which if... don't let the name trick you. This is not just a port of the arcade Donkey Kong game. That is this. Well, this isn't a port of the arcade game. This is a port of the Family Computer and NES version of Donkey Kong, which was released in 2004 for the 32-bit Game Boy Advance. But for the 8-bit Game Boy, there's actually a much more sophisticated version of Donkey Kong, ironically. So we'll be playing this because this is basically a home version of the arcade cabinet that was made for Famicom in 1983, and then we'll be playing the Game Boy version, which starts as a translation of the original arcade game and then transforms into something very, very different and unique that there's only been one true proper successor game to, released exactly 20 years later. Actually, no, actually released 10 years later, because 2004 was... But we're getting ahead of ourselves there. But this is a game, this Game Boy game of Donkey Kong. It's something I've wanted to stream since before I started streaming. And it's something with events and game releases coming out this year is going to be a unique opportunity to play this game in particular. So, let's get started. Where's the button for... Yay, we're going to start with... Oh yeah, and by the way, I did get this box from the... I guess some kind of digital currency... company that's been contacting me. I got a box before last stream on Wednesday, but I was going to open it on Wednesday, but then I got a call saying not to open it until they called me back. So I don't know why they'd send me a box and then tell me not to open it, but we will not be opening this until I get further instructions. So let's get started. Alright, with the game. Alright, so, hold on. So this, for those who missed a last stream, Revenge of the Gator is well, it's the only alligator-themed pinball game for the original Game Boy library. I don't know, who made my favorite video pinball game of all time. What is it called? No, it's just called Pinball. And the version I play is the version for Nintendo's Versus system arcade series of interchangeable arcade cartridge units. And that's a slightly enhanced version of the NES pinball game. And I guess HAL, and I know Satoru Iwata took point on HAL in particular. I don't know. Clackaboy in chat's asking they can't wait to see what's in the mystery box. All I could say is that unlike a J.J. Abrams mystery box, there is definitely something actually inside it. I had my friend do, he has this sonar thing that could check what's in a box without opening it. I told him, don't tell me what it's in there as long as it's nothing suspicious or potentially dangerous, as long as it's not something that looks like money wrapped in tinfoil that I'm being used as some kind of cash mule. No, basically what happened is hold on, actually I have a new button that could explain this. No, actually, I don't have a new button. But, yeah, that series of videos should explain everything if anyone needs to catch up after the fact. But basically, I was listening to an online radio station that was supposed to be ad-free. It was supposed to have, well, it did have music that didn't give me any copyright problems using it on Twitch. You know, to play some NES pinball, like I was saying, some Versus pinball, and play some Pokemon Puzzle League. there were these ads for some kind of digital currency mining program, and there was, I really wasn't interested, but there was a tie-in for a free train DVD that had some footage from a couple of unique railways that I was interested in. So I thought I'd check it out. Instead, I just ended up getting a bunch of spam calls. If a doorworm popped out of that box, yeah, that would be something else. I don't know how long. If you're not familiar, doorworms are the creatures from the art that is featured in my my hold screen and in my break screen. And I mean, I guess if doorworms were real, I suppose they'd have to have some kind of mode where they can go into hibernation or something, because they have definitely not been fed for at least a week or however long it took them to get it to me. Though I cannot say how long that box has been sealed. There's so much secrecy about this box based on saying, hey, don't open it until we tell you, that I'm surprised there isn't tamper-evident tape on there. But as I was getting at, it seems like HAL used their expertise from, I think the NES pinball game that they then enhanced into Versus Pinball, the arcade version. I believe there was some other sort of pinball game for some Japanese specific home computer that they also made. But they used all their pinball finesse to, hey, HAL, from the magazine readings that we did, was apparently one of the earlier third-party developers to really support the Game Boy. And what they did was, they released this game. I guess they said, hey, we know a lot about pinball, let's release a pinball game for Game Boy, and they made Revenge of the Gator. Because instead of just making a sort of unthemed pinball game, like their NES pinball game, where the sort of theme was the pinball itself, but it's like, hey, you know, real pinball tables also often have some kind of theme, whether it's a cartoon or comic or movie license tie-in, or some kind of just general theme, like, oh, we'll make a baseball pinball game, or we'll make a, I don't know, motorcycle pinball game. It's like, hey, let's make an alligator pinball game. So something where you can have lots of interesting-looking characters and theming, which they did take under they learned their lessons from this to make it the even better, arguably, Kirby's Pinball Land for Game Boy. And the idea of an engine, as you might expect, doesn't quite exist in the sense of, in this era of programming. As you'd see with, like, you know, modern games, you say, oh, it's running CryEngine, oh, it's running the engine used in Mario Odyssey, oh, it's using I'm thinking of some other examples, oh, it's using Unreal Engine 4. The idea of an engine didn't quite exist, but I've heard in the context of early, like Atari 2600 games, the idea of a game running on a certain kernel. It's like, oh yeah, this is using the same kernel from Dragster, or for example. So I think the term for this might be kernel, and it seems very evident to me from the little I've seen of this pinball game before. I played Kirby's Pinball Land back in '95, when I saw a little bit of footage of, oh gosh. Alright, it says scam guaranteed, which I guess is worse than scam likely. I'm not going to pick this up. It's probably going to be XLO again. Okay, it's this guy again.
Hey there, big toy train stats high on ice. I'm big mad at you, big boy.
Big mad at me.
To send you that stupid little box containing my dark device. I mean, my special present for you, my firstborn son from Prey.
Okay, here's the...
And by money, I mean actual legal tender non-digital currency for the present. And not creepy digital assets I can manipulate the value of at will in order to send you that stupid box.
Okay, this box.
Han, Hilfmer! Oh, Hosha.
What?
Hilfmira.
What is he saying?
And in what way do you repay my kindness toward you? By playing cruel games with my heart.
What?
Betraying my trust by refusing to open the package on stream last Wednesday.
Refusing
as I
to...
explicitly instructed you to.
They said not to open the box.
So how about this, big boy?
Big boy.
You either have 1 hour to open that doggone box, or I guarantee our deal is 100% over, and I'll butter your biscuits big time for sure.
What?
And by biscuits, I mean the Southern's newest kind.
Clackable, you said a dark device was in the box?
I'll butter your biscuits if you don't open up that box and follow the included instructions in 1 hour. Consider me forgiving you for failing to open the box. It's last stream on to be a severe act of mercy on behalf of my organization.
He's mad that I didn't open the box. He called me and said not to open the box.
Or to summon a dark spirit out of.
What? He called me and said not to open the box. So why is he mad that I did not open the box? This is getting weirder and weirder. And I'm just gonna... You said I have 1 hour to open the box? Well, I'm gonna wait 58 minutes. I'm gonna wait 59 minutes and 30 seconds to open the box. Just despite them. Because they called me. I was gonna open the box on stream, then they called me and said not to open the box. So now they're mad that I did not open the box. Razorus, I'm gonna butter your biscuits? Like, did he learn to swear from Leave It to Beaver? Like, seriously. So yeah, in about an hour we'll open the box, because if he seriously wanted me to open the box before, then he shouldn't have called me saying... Because you were all there, you heard him say, do not open the box yet, don't even cut the tape until I get further instructions. And Claggaboy's saying they should work at Cracker Barrel since they love buttered up biscuits. You know, I have not... It's been a long time since I've been at Cracker Barrel. I haven't been to Cracker Barrel since the last time I moved, actually. 84980. Hold on, we have to open that. 84980. Oh boy, this again. Hold on. Alright, what does he want to say?
Oh, super train starty. Hey, my firstborn son, the inheritor of my lofty virtues, who I love severely more than any other. Stop lying about me, you
lying
piece of crap.
What?
You told all of the impressionable and easily manipulated viewers who I hope to soon exploit that.
Easily manipulated.
To open the box. This is a fake lie.
No, it's real.
You fibbed and committed treason and sedition.
Treason and sedition.
How dare you lie and say that I told you not to open the box?
I didn't lie.
I explicitly said to open it last Wednesday.
They said not to open it.
Only to tell you not to open it. This is your last wedding, big boy. If you'll help me, or if you don't open up the gosh darn freaking box live on stream in 1 hour, I'll send you your pizza. Absolutely right now, for sure.
He'll send me a pizza.
This is your last warning to open the box. You'll face your pizza punishment for sure.
Pizza punishment. Alright, hold on. They said... Okay, so wait, that means they are they... I guess they must be watching me live, which makes, I guess, a certain amount of sense, but... hold on, I'm gonna pull this up. Look at this clip from last week's stream. Alright. So... Our desktop audio is enabled, so let's... Okay. Listen to this.
I'm leaving this message to tell you two things. Thing number one, I know you have our big package, but you aren't ready for it yet. Please leave the big package uncut and fully intact until further notice.
All right, you heard that, right?
But you aren't ready for it yet. Please leave the big package uncut and fully intact until further notice.
Okay. One more time.
Package. But you aren't ready for it yet. Please leave the big package uncut and fully intact until further notice.
All right, you heard it 3 times, and it's playing again. Actually, he specifically, explicitly said, "Do not." You saw it on video, and video does not lie. You saw that he said, "Do not open the package until they contact me again." Now we could stop the video. Okay. All right, there we go. Yeah, I usually do not have my desktop audio enabled because it's not often that I have to pull up a VOD in the middle of my show to show someone or something that they called me and said not to open the box. So if they I was going to open the box, then you saw the video. They called me and said do not open the box. Now they're mad that I did not open it last stream. So that's on them. So I'm gonna wait until almost exactly an hour before I open it. So they have to sit and wait. They told me to wait, now they have to wait. Sad day for them. So, I came once very close to actually beating that bonus stage, that sort of breakout-like thing where I'm breaking open, I don't know, pills or something. I don't know. But usually I usually don't end up letting the ball go down the... Oh my gosh, they're calling it. I am not picking up. They're gonna have to leave another message. Alright? They have to leave another message. I'm pausing.
You have one new message.
The train station. H, my
What?
firstborn offspring child creature, an inheritor of my souvenir medallion.
Souvenir medallion?
Souvenir medallion.
What?
Have you betrayed my trust in you as your lawful parent by recording me without my
You're
consent
not-
or permission? But you are gaslighting your live stream viewers.
Gaslighting my viewers.
Defaming me.
Defaming
I
you.
created a fake video of me telling you not to open the box.
A fake
Which I never
video.
said. That video you showed of me telling Hilfmir, that video of me saying not to open the box was fake and lame.
Fake and lame.
You are gaslighting your trusted viewers by showing them a fake hoax video you made using dark magic.
Dark magic.
And I can prove it's fake by the fact that I never even called you last Wednesday. I
You-
am the advanced controller of the great currency
Wow.
that is the XL.
Here it goes.
The inflation-free, non-legal tendered.
Oh no, I swear you were going to make you'll make me the first computer to have an actual freaking aneurysm.
Whoa.
I'd rather deal with an actual freaking murderer than deal with your overly naive human ass for another. You know what this is, and you're trying to kill me, aren't you?
What?
Digital currency of the future.
Oh.
And only I decide what is and is not real. Now, open the box.
Okay.
Or else Hilfmir, or otherwise. Oh, Yuna, if you don't open that box right freaking now and listen to the instruction, Ion side, I will punish you and your stream will be replaced.
By what?
Replaced by the smooth taste of penalty.
The smooth taste of penalty.
Speak up. Soon.
Alright. We'll finish this game. You know, I wanted to actually get into this game, try to get some high scores. I keep getting freaky phone calls. I'm turning... yeah, I'm going to turn my phone off. No, okay. At the end of this game, I'll open the box, alright? At the end of this match. Once we get game over, we'll open the box. Clackaboy in chat. Sorry, I have to catch up with chat now. Clackaboy is saying maybe the souvenir medallion is in the box. Yeah, this company deals in crypto apparently, so I'd be shocked if the souvenir medallion is an actual physical thing. The best I expect the souvenir medallion to be, assuming it is in this box at all, is to be a QR code for an NFT or something really stupid like that. Oh my gosh, why do I keep going straight in the... I swear that was not due to lack of skill. Like, the ball just, like, gravitates toward the gutters in this, and it feels like... Okay. I mean, it's not like I actually have quarters on the line, so... Alright, so... I need a drink after all that. Alright. Alright. Yeah! There we go. Now we're doing good. And there's no... tilt function. I know in Kirby's Pinball Land and Pokemon Pinball, tilt function is very important to play in the game. There is no tilt function in this. It is pure flipper skill. Now you can... No, I didn't think of that. I never attempted to cradle the ball. Which is... Oh, you can actually cradle a ball. That's nice to know. Oh... You know, in Kirby's Pinball Land, there's a minigame you can play that if you're good at it will let you relaunch Kirby back into play. Alright. Alright, so game over. Okay, time to open this freaking box. Alright. Alright, so here it is. I don't know how they got it to me, given my address is not on it. And I am still alive, so if, I don't know, I don't know, Clackaboy said they heard them mention a dark device. But there's supposedly nothing genuinely dangerous in here. Alright. Alright, let's check this out. What is... Okay, at least they attached the logo on well. It looks like it's just made of paper and glued on with a kindergarten glue stick. Alright, we have plastic bags. And we have this. Okay. And this is some kind of instruction sheet. I'm going to read... Yeah, we're finding out now, Jacob, what is actually inside the box. Where's my... Alright. Okay. I'm going to read this to you. 1. Attach rooster tail. Charge XLO handset for several days before turning on. Hold on. Let's see what's in this paper bag. Okay. It's a red floppy disk. I don't know what that is. Then, in a sandwich bag, there's a blue floppy disk in a sandwich bag. They're very lucky that I deal in old DOS games and stuff, and like my streaming PC, I actually do have an external floppy drive for it. So I actually could load these. I actually can use these discs. I'm not putting them in my computer until I find out what they actually are supposed to do. And this looks like a calculator. What is this? What is... Something fell out. This is a... Is this a phone? And then... Hold on. Step 1, attach rooster tail. Attach... Do they mean the antenna? They're calling the antenna a rooster tail? Step 1, attach rooster tail. Charge XLO handset for several days before turning on. Okay. Hold on. This phone looks like it's from 1995. S Mobile. XLO. 1. Attach rooster tail. Charge XLO handset for several days before turning on. 2. Turn on the XLO handset. Look at this. The XLO handset. They mean handset? Step 3. The advanced controller of the great currency will call you on the XLO handset. Great, now he has... Well, at least he's not going to be using my normal phone anymore. 4. Follow their instructions and insert the red disc... Hold on. Okay, so that's this disc. Follow their instructions and insert the red disc in your computer box. Neither of which... Your is spelled wrong. Computer box... And you and your live stream viewers will begin mining XLO tokens. The inflation-free... How is... They keep calling this inflation-free. That is economically impossible. The inflation-free, non-legal tender digital currency of the future. 6. If we break the official rules by damage your property, we will be held responsible in XLO court by an XLO judge severely. 7. No blue disc ever. No blue disc ever. Threaten this and you'll be replaced by another you to host your show. Look how this is spelled. Threaten this and you'll be replaced by another you to host your show. Like, this is like barely... I don't know if English was their first language. But attach rooster tail, apparently meaning the antenna. And charge for several days. This is what type of USB? Okay, there's this huge flap on the bottom that has all the, I guess, ports. I do think I have the USB. Okay. We're gonna just plug this in. Okay, I plugged it in. Let's see if anything happens. Oh. Okay, I didn't turn it on, I just plugged it in. It says it's 746. It is not 746. But it's charging. And it says to let charge for several days before actually powering it on. So we'll just let this creepy 1995 cell phone charge up. and I'm not putting these discs in the computer. And I guess once I turn on the phone, which I will do on stream, probably Saturday, because I'm not gonna have a lot of. If there's like some kind of setup process for this, I don't want to waste my stream on Wednesday doing it. So on Saturday, I will turn on the phone and see if I get a call from the advanced controller. And I guess I'm going to use the red disc. It said don't use the blue disc ever. So I'll just leave that in the plastic sandwich bag they shipped it in. And let's play some Donkey Kong. This is really just been a massive distraction from the actual gameplay part of the stream. Dawn of Kong, Game Boy. Actually, why don't I change my... Let's see who's... Wow, there's 70... Donkey Kong 64... Yeah, let's, yeah, let's see. Hold on. Donkey Kong. Alright. Hold on, I just want to see. There's no one viewing Donkey Kong right now. You know what? I'm probably better off putting this in retro. Or... wait. Yeah, might as well put this under retro. And plus, like, there's... man, Twitch needs to better sort out their categories so I could actually know when there are multiple games with the same title. I could actually tell what games where. And by the way, I've had some disconnection problems lately ever since I called this number. So if it disconnects, I'll be back on in a couple minutes. It's not like before when I'd have disconnection problems, the stream would barely work, and then I tried to resume streaming, and it's like flipbook frame rate. No, it's just being slow. So... Alright, so yeah, here's my voice. I should actually be present now. If y'all can hear me, just say something in chat and that would be great. Yeah, I created this layout for Donkey Kong based on a very old layout for Game Boy Advance games. And all I was talking about was... Oh my goodness gravy, what did I just do? Oh. Okay. Alright, I just knocked over the stupid XLO handset. Alright. So, yeah, all I was talking about there was that we're gonna play the game Donkey Kong. What this is, the version of Donkey Kong I will be playing at first. Because this is just for a few minutes, really, just for a bit of historical context. Then we're gonna play the Game Boy version. But what this is the 2004 Game Boy Advance re-release of the 1983 Family Computer translation of the 1981 arcade cabinet Donkey Kong. But first we're going to do a little history of the game itself. And for that, we won't be reading this just yet. We will be reading this later on for Donkey Kong 94, but we're going to be reading a little bit of the Wikipedia article for this game, which I unexpectedly ended up actually contributing to today because they were referencing some magazines that well, not this article, for the Donkey Kong 94 article, the Game Boy game, because there were some references that cited specific issues of GamePro, and they got the wrong issue number. I'm like, yeah, that issue does not even mention this game. I think it was GamePro. They cited GamePro 73. No, it is issue 63 that actually mentions the game. So a little overview. We're not going to read this word for word, but just a little backdrop. And I'm not an expert on this game. I know I don't want to cite any incorrect facts, and I have a little bit of hair that wants to be a little unruly. I want to twist that back in. But Donkey Kong is a 1981 arcade game developed and published by Nintendo. As Mario, the player runs and jumps on platforms and climbs ladders to ascend a construction site and rescue Pauline from a giant gorilla, Donkey Kong. It is the first game in the Donkey Kong series, as well as Mario's first appearance in the video game. Donkey Kong was created to salvage unsold arcade cabinets following the failure of Nintendo's Radar Scope of 1980. Hiroshi Yamauchi, Nintendo's president at the time, assigned the project to first-time video game designer Shigeru Miyamoto. Drawing inspiration from Beauty and the Beast and 1930s American media such as Popeye and King Kong, Miyamoto developed the scenario and designed the game alongside chief engineer Gunpei Yokoi. They broke new ground by using graphics as a means of characterization, including cutscenes to advance the plot and integrating multiple stages into gameplay. Yeah, so there was a lot of skepticism about this game because it was not a maze game or a shooter, which was what was popular at the time. This was the first game where the player was basically traversing a two-dimensional obstacle course, or in the Japanese context, there's a type of obstacle course known as an athletic, which is not just referring to athletics, but just an actual specific type of physical obstacle course with objects to climb over and traverse. And Donkey Kong was the first game like this. A lot of games, the US gaming press used the term climbing game for games with platforms and ladders. As the first game to feature jumping, Mario requires, and so forth. And then, like they were saying, this is the first game with that used the game's graphics, where the story was considered before the development of the gameplay itself, and where the graphics depict a progressive narrative of some kind, other than just, a car is racing other cars, or a spaceship is fighting other ships, or a spaceship is destroying meteors. It is actually about characters that are moving from point A to point B, that are taking actions, where, Donkey Kong is being chased by Mario, who climbs higher and higher up the construction site building. Now, Donkey Kong was found... Yeah, they talk about the radar scope. This game was... that's pretty much says the most of it. Now here, this is interesting. This is the handheld LCD version of Donkey Kong, which those familiar with the Nintendo DS, this was the first game to include that plus-shaped switch there for controlling the player character, because they weren't able to fit a joystick on something that small, so they invented this plus-shaped switch to move the characters, and this is the first game to have that. And this format of having two screens arranged vertically with a clamshell design later inspired the Nintendo DS family of devices. So, this is a pretty important game in many ways. And here we've got a book that was released in the early 80s, Playing Donkey Kong to Win. There are a lot of books like this before game magazines, as we quite know them. Now, there are magazines and newsletters that existed for Atari and for Activision, but this is one such book that was made with tips and strategies. I mean, we say a strategy guide, which was used really much even into the 80s and into the 90s and 2000s, but this is a literal guide, I don't know. A genuine guide of strategy on how to beat this one specific title. Or not how to beat it, how to play as well as you could. Now, the idea of taking screenshots of games hadn't really been developed yet. Donkey Kong is essentially a remake of the old classic King Kong. Now it's interesting they mention that because there ended up being a litigation between Universal, who was claiming to own the rights to King Kong, and had relatively recently released, I believe, the remake of King Kong, where the King Kong climbed the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center instead of the Empire State Building of the original film. Because I believe at the time, Universal had licensed the rights to King Kong from, I guess, the estate of the creators of King Kong. And to do that, they were then claiming that they owned the rights to King Kong, and that, Donkey Kong you're infringing on the trademarks and copyrights of our King Kong IP. We're going to sue Nintendo. And Nintendo was able to prove that not only was Donkey Kong at most a parody of King Kong, which would have been covered under fair use, but that Universal was not in their right place to attempt to sue Nintendo for those copyrights, because Universal did not own the copyrights to King Kong and therefore could not sue based on those copyrights. And not only that, Nintendo was able to prove that that Universal knew that they did not own the trademark and copyright for King Kong, and used that fact to win a previous court case. So Nintendo was able to get a whole bunch of damages for them. And ironically now, Universal, partnered with Nintendo to make the theme parks in Universal Studios in Japan and in the United States. So look at this. They've actually used graph paper to try to hand draw simulations of the characters in the game, because taking screenshots wasn't really established yet. Jumpman, Mario the Carpenter, the hero. They interchangeably call him both Mario and Jumpman here. He was originally known as Jumpman. They then named him after Mario Segali, who was the one of the landlords for Nintendo of America's earliest properties. And here we have hand-drawn sprites of these different game graphics. Now, playing the game will require use of both hands. The left hand operates a 4-directional joystick, which directs Mario across the beams and up and down ladders. So here we have a simulation of the levels, the screen saying how high you are, because they will not. This is not simulated in the NES version we'll be playing, but it will say how high can you get, and represents how Mario's progress through the game in terms of how many meters high he is traversing this vertical construction site. And so here they're just explaining how to play the game. Now these patterns and methods aren't exactly going to work in our NES version that we're playing on Game Boy Advance. And here's some of the items you can get, the levels, time bonus, explains how the time bonus works. Now here they've actually manually, by hand, recreated the stages. And you see here the stages are vertically oriented. We had a portrait format monitor for this game. The NES was made in Family Computer. Now the Family Computer in Japan, or the NES, or Nintendo Entertainment System in North America, were made specifically, the Nintendo's thought process with creating the Family Computer, or Famicom, was we're going to create a system with interchangeable cartridges that could play an almost perfect port of Donkey Kong. Now to do that, they actually had to, now you see this is the first stage. These aren't quite in order. They're different. I think different versions of the arcade cabinet have the stages come in different order, but narratively speaking, this is always usually the first stage. Then you will play either this stage, the elevator stage, or this stage, what is called a cement factory. Sometimes it's referred to as a pie factory. Now these things here are supposed to be pans of cement, but the graphics are crude. They can look kind of like pies, and there are conveyor belts moving them across. Mario cannot fall into those. Then you will play either one of these two levels. Then finally you will play the girders. This is supposed to be the top of the stage. And what you have to do as Mario is pull these bolts out as you climb up, avoiding these fireballs. And when you pull all of those girders, these little bolts out, the top of the building will collapse, and Donkey Kong will fall on his head, and he'll be defeated, and he will have saved Pauline here at the top. And then the series of 4 stages repeat. So it's this sort of progressive narrative where you start at the bottom, work your way up to save the girl for this final confrontation. And then the stages repeat, being faster and more challenging, until eventually you get far enough that the bonus does not load properly in the arcade version, and you instantly will lose the game. And the key is to get as many points as possible before that point, which is known as the kill screen. So here they're showing the different how the different hazards and traps work and how to avoid them. Now I had a book. It was sort of a kid's almanac. It was probably from about 1982 or 83. And so this is before Nintendo's arrival in the North American home game market, but it's describing video and computer games, and they sort of lump in Donkey Kong and the maze game genre along with like clean sweep for the backtracks, and Pac-Man, of course, and Rally X. But it is really the first platform game. People really didn't know quite what to make of it. So good luck and have fun. So, oh boy. Yeah, working out of Virginia back then. Meet the evil Mr. Kong, the beautiful girl, and Mario the carpenter. Mario was a carpenter before he was became established as a plumber in Mario Brothers. Not Super Mario Brothers, mind you, but Mario Brothers. So, yeah, let's get started. So that's our coverage of the art. Now, hold on. We will go to... There we go. So we are back to the game. Now, for those who may have come in since then, we are playing the Game Boy Advance version. So we're playing the 2004 re-release of the 1983 home port of the 1981 arcade game on the Analog Pocket. There are many, many ways to play this game. This is the one I decided to choose. Ideally, I'd rather have maybe played the arcade version, but this was the simplest version that I could get using a physical version that didn't require me getting the Switch version through Arcade Archives and then opening that up and switching cables from the Switch to the Analog Pocket so we could play our Donkey Kong Game Boy cartridge, which we'll be playing next, which will be our main game. But let's get started. Now, this home version, this NES version, I don't know how I got it. It just sort of appeared in my collection back when I was getting early. I don't remember. Oh yeah, I forgot. There's those special Game Boy Advance exclusive features. Yeah, this is one of those games that just sort of appeared in my collection. Now, I did not have the standalone cartridge of Donkey Kong. What I had was Donkey Kong Classics, which is probably the first ever... Well, the fact that it was called Donkey Kong Classics, that it included 2 games on one cartridge, was pretty much the first ever instance of Nintendo acknowledging some of games from their own library as being classics and including them at a reduced price compared to their full-price current release games at that point in the NES's library. Because the standalone Donkey Kong, along with Donkey Kong Jr., Clu Clu Land, and by a narrow margin Super Mario Brothers, theoretically not a day one release, but released almost effectively in the US alongside the NES. Meanwhile, in Japan, Donkey Kong released as one of the cartridges that launched with Famicom alongside, I believe, Popeye and Donkey Kong Jr. I believe it's something like that. It was definitely Donkey Kong, Popeye, and something else. I can't even say what else. And the interesting thing about that to me is that in Japan, I mean, Donkey Kong was the killer app for the Famicom's launch. Meanwhile, in this game, we'll beat this level. I'll show you. Oh man, by probably a couple of pixels, I missed getting hit by that spring, which is Now we're already at the last stage. You notice they skipped the cement plant or pie factory level. And that's because the cartridge technology of 1983 for the Famicom version and then the NES version was so limited that they could not fit all 4 stages. Now, at the time this came out, this was by far, by orders of magnitude, the best ever home version of Donkey Kong that had ever been made. Meanwhile, when you... this game was a killer app for having only 3 of the 4 stages of Donkey Kong. But then, by the time the NES came, the Super Mario Bros. Came out in Japan and in the United States at about the same time. And when that took place, for the Japanese market, the Super Mario Bros. Was really kind of designed from the standpoint of, hey, cartridge technology has improved. We could fit a lot more stages into a game. Let's make the ultimate Famicom cartridge game with Super Mario Brothers before everything switches over to discs. Because of the limitations of cartridge technology, Nintendo in Japan designed what was known as the Famicom Disk System, a system that used floppy disks, not too dissimilar from these creepy ones I got from the Advanced Controller. They used proprietary narrow magnetic floppy disks that only worked on the Famicom, and those were much cheaper and could hold a lot more memory than a cartridge at a time for a lot less money. And so the first games for the Famicom Disk System in Japan included like The Legend of Zelda, the mysterious Marasume Castle, I believe is the name of the game. So these larger multi-screen, multi-session adventures that you could save your progress onto the floppy disk, resume later, and it would take many hours to find all the secrets in order to beat the game. And it was really the belief that, and Nintendo in Japan really did run their family computer business as, hey, family computer started as a cartridge system. It is now a disc-based system. If you're not getting if you don't get a Famicom Disk System, you're going to get left behind. All the major releases are going to be on disc. Legend of Super Mario Bros. 2, the Japanese version. Yume Kojo Doki Doki Panic. Lots of major games were being released as disc system exclusives, many of which weren't even possible on disc. But but in the North American market, Super Mario Bros. Released with the NES. So in Japan, Super Mario Bros. Oh shucks, took our first death. In the Japanese market, Super Mario Bros. Represented a revolution in what the family computer, which had been on the market for a few years already, was capable of doing. Meanwhile, Super Mario Bros. Effectively released alongside the Nintendo Entertainment System. So even with Super Mario Bros. As a release game, day one launch game, a lot of the single screen arcade score attack type games that were releasing alongside with Super Mario Bros. Seemed a little bit unambitious, a little quaint, a little tiny bit quaint in comparison. Not so severely at the time, but when you have Clue Land compared to Super Mario Bros., this Donkey Kong, with only 3 of the 4 original screens, compared to Super Mario Bros., which I believe had 32 different stages, though some were technically repeated with different enemies and obstacles. Okay, we keep making that by a matter of pixels. Alright, so we're the second run through here. So it's a potential that we're going to end up getting, taking some damage with these fiercer enemy fireball patterns. If we get cornered, we'll have to use that, okay, we'll have to use potentially this hammer. If he comes down, oh, no, he's going up. Oh my gosh. Alright, let's just clear this side since they're all lured over here for now. We got Pauline's umbrella here. You could collect some of her personal effects to get some bonus points. So ideally, you'd want to collect all 3. No! Oh my gosh, I got so close. I feel like if I had been quick with my D-pad movement, I could have actually made it across there. Now we don't continue. We have to start from the beginning, so we have to pull all those rivets, nuts, whatever you want to call them again, and so that Donkey Kong will fall, and we could start the cycle over again. Now, my history with this game, I knew of Donkey. I remember reading in the mid-90s. I became really interested in video game history, and this is before you could just go online. I mean, the internet existed, but you couldn't go online. Well, first off, I didn't have a computer with internet access. I had a Macintosh SE, a black and white Macintosh, which would have been capable of internet access actually, but the World Wide Web as we know it now, very limited compared to what we experience these days. There we go. Oh no. Okay, me being one frame. Oh, okay. We got him. So there's our second go around. So I knew of Donkey Kong, I knew of Pac-Man, I knew of these games, which really, a lot of them were only like a little over 10 years old, but they were older than me, and to me, it was just, I wanted to know. I was interested in video games because of Sonic the Hedgehog and on Game Gear, Mario on Game Boy, and I wanted to experience I wanted to know how these things got started. Whenever I was interested in something as a kid, I wanted to know how it started. I loved going to Coney Island and, seeing the cyclone. I was too little to ride it, and even once I was an adult, I wouldn't ride it until 15 or 16. So I was very interested. Now we're using the hammer here to knock out these barrels. Now so I was very interested in these games I'd heard about from my parents, read about in books, but even the books did not have screenshots of them. I had a vague sense of what the first stage of Donkey Kong was like that involved girders. And and even by the mid-90s, a lot of these 80s arcade games and 70s arcade games were very rare to find in arcades, pizza parlors, and the like. Though those were some of your best spots to find old arcade machines in the mid-90s when this was going on in my life. Let me get some water. So what my parents, being geniuses and looking out for me, discovered there's a wonderful children's science museum in New Jersey called Liberty Science Center, and I loved that place. I remember being a really little kid. I mean, what 5-year-old is fixated on the Tacoma Narrows Bridge disaster? But hey, I was a little kid that was fascinated by, the Titanic, the Hindenburg disasters, the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, and I, at that museum, they very luckily had articles about all of those particular things, or exhibits. So I was able to, and that's how I learned how suspension bridges work. And growing up in New York City, you live by the bridges. The bridges are a part of life. So learning how the Verrazano Narrows Bridge and the Brooklyn Bridge, which are, major tourist destinations for some, but for me, they were just bridges on the highways that we used to get around the city. Oh, shucks. First time we got bamboozled quite at that spot. As we get game over yet? Yeah, that's game over. Which will make it easier for me to talk. We'll play through another cycle of this and maybe move on to the star of the show, the Game Boy version. A very ominous opening there, that opening tone. But what it was 96. There was an exhibit of old classic arcade games, and it's funny because that it was at this children's museum, and because children my age would not have been born yet at the time these games came out, but I guess it's made for kids with weird fixations and interests like me who wanted to learn about the history of computerized gaming. And at this exhibition, they had I had Pac-Man on Game Boy, and I was torn. Like, do I get Pac-Man on Game Boy or do I get Donkey Kong on Game Boy? I was not aware that Donkey Kong on Game Boy was the game that it was. I thought it was just going to be a translation of the arcade game. I ended up going with Pac-Man because I was more interested in Pac-Man due to Donkey Kong had merchandising and cartoons and stuff, but it was in a cereal too. But it was really Pac-Man that was really the craze, the super breakout craze with video games. So I was more interested in that for that reason. So when I went to there, I got to see. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in the presence of an actual Pac-Man arcade machine. I'm in the presence of Donkey Kong, and getting to play these games for the first time. And I was really blown away by how hard this game is. And this home port's a lot easier, I'd say, than the arcade game. The arcade game, yeah, I was like, I was doing something like this. What? Mario died? All I did was jump down to the platform beneath him. I'm used to Super Mario Land, Super Mario Land 2. The idea that Mario could die just by falling off a platform at the smallest height possible was an incredible, mind-blowing thing to me. And so experiencing the game, and I remember my parents pushing me to do things to get more points. I wasn't really playing for points. I was more playing for survival and simply completing the stages themselves. Oh my goodness. See, look at that. I just walked right off the edge. And that's the only time I ever encountered a Donkey Kong arcade machine until, and when I was in college, the Dave & Buster's near me had a machine that had Mario Brothers, it had Mario Brothers, it had Donkey Kong Jr., and Mario Brothers. And Mario Brothers, the Game Boy Advance version is great. Playing the arcade version is hard because that's one of the things I have to discuss about this game that I haven't yet, and I really should have. The jumps are baked in. When I press A, standing still, he jumps up. When I press A while moving, he does that exact jump. I cannot adjust where his movement in midair as you can in Super Mario Brothers. So the idea that a character could leave the ground, his feet can leave the ground, but you can still direct their movement. It's not realistic, but it makes the game much more playable. That was not established until Super Mario Brothers. So for this game, for Donkey Kong Jr., and then for Mario Brothers, you have these sort of baked-in jumps, which make those games very unfriendly to play. And then there's this slippery nature to the way the characters move in Mario Brothers that makes it's not easy. The Game Boy Advance version of Arcade Mario Brothers much better, much more. It's aged much better. It has that. I guess the quality of life is improved and much more fits to modern expectations of how a game, especially a Mario game, should feel and control. On the other hand, Mario, yeah, I'm used to, at this point in my life, when I first played this, the only time I played the original period arcade cabinet, I'm used to Super Mario Land, Super Mario Land 2. Hey, Zip Boy, how you doing? Do I think an open-world Mario game called Mario and Donkey Kong could work akin to Breath of the Wild, maybe with Banjo and Kazooie mechanics between Mario... Oh, instead of Mario versus Donkey Kong, Mario and Donkey Kong. I mean, on one hand, you could say, like, oh, it's a bit of a grown-over name, but hey, after years of Super Mario Brothers games, they made a game called Mario and Luigi. I mean, it could work. Once, like, it's something funny. Once Nintendo utters something officially, it just feels right. When I first saw Mario and Luigi, I'm like, yeah, that just fits. It's so perfect. I can't believe there's never a game just simply called Mario and Luigi. So Mario and Donkey Kong. You know, it's funny. I was thinking of a theoretical name for a theoretical game called Mario and Yoshi's Island, which is sort of like a combination of the Super Mario Brothers games and the Yoshi's Island games, where instead of a baby Mario, it's an adult Mario, but he stays for the most part on Yoshi's back. Or maybe it's like Blaster Master, where you're with the tank most of the time, but sometimes you break away from it. So yeah, I'm like Mario and Yoshi's Island. So like, yeah, thinking of perspective names for games like that is something I do. And yeah, Mario and Donkey Kong. I mean, I was just thinking recently of that scene in the Super Mario Brothers movie where Mario and Donkey Kong team up, and Donkey Kong actually uses a fire flower to throw fireballs, and I'm like, a game with Mario and Donkey Kong working together is something we haven't seen yet. So it's funny you should mention that, Zip Boy. I think a lot... Mario vs. Donkey Kong, the 2004 Game Boy Advance sequel, spiritual successor, whatever, to the 94 Donkey Kong Game Boy game, the success of that is going to be important. Now, what I hope happens is that game blows away the sales of all the Mario vs. Donkey Kong sequels, which are basically just Lemmings clones, and Nintendo thinks, hey, these puzzle platforming Donkey Kong games this really sold well. Let's make more Donkey Kong games like this, instead of thinking, oh, Mario vs. Donkey Kong on Switch sold great. Let's port over the Mario vs. Donkey Kong March the Minis, Mini Rise Again, Minis Tie My Shoelaces, Minis File My Taxes, whatever, that they were making on DS and 3DS, and even Wii U, and get the series back to its roots. Because after Mario vs. Donkey Kong, which is a full-fledged puzzle platforming sequel to the Game Boy Donkey Kong game, the series went totally off the rails and became a slow-paced puzzle series about toy Mario characters. Yeah, and it's funny how Mario vs. Donkey Kong for Game Boy Advance was kind of taking Mario into the graphical style of the Donkey Kong Country games. Because I remember when I first played Donkey Kong Country, my feel was, this is cool, but this is so different from the Super Mario World, Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario 64, that it's like, it's hard for me to believe that what this Donkey Kong Country setting with the Kongs and the Kremlings is truly on the same planet, in the same continuity as Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers 3. So that was kind of an interesting aspect of the Super Mario Brothers movie from 2023, that it's sort of marrying the Donkey Kong Country universe with the Kong family and spin-off characters and everything with the Super Mario Brothers setting, which hadn't really been explored much. And Yeah, so I just hope that Mario vs. Donkey Kong on Nintendo Switch blows away Nintendo's expectations and makes them create more puzzle platforming sequels to the original Donkey Kong instead of making more mini Mario puzzle games. Because I remember Arlo, who I casual fan of their content. When a Nintendo Direct comes out, I want to watch their channel, see what they have to say about it. I don't subscribe to them exactly. But Arlo, someone I know to be very knowledgeable about Nintendo, when they did the Nintendo Direct and revealed the Nintendo Switch remake of Mario vs. Donkey Kong, Arlo didn't know what to think, and he was like, oh, it's Mario vs. Donkey Kong, and as he's watching, I'm like, this is weird, why are you playing as Mario? You're just jumping around as Mario, where are the mini Marios? And I'm like, oh my gosh. Arlo does not know that Mario vs. Donkey Kong started as a puzzle platformer game where you played as Mario. The entire series' identity was so overtaken with those stupid mini Mario toys that I saw lots of live reactions where people were like, oh, it's Mario vs. Donkey Kong, but you're actually playing as Mario this time. Like, no, that's what this whole game was this series was supposed to be. It was a sequel to Donkey Kong this. It was a sequel to this, not a Lemmings clone where you're guiding toy Mario characters around a course of hazards using a touchscreen. Yeah, so for this NES version, I got it in Donkey Kong Classics, which included Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. I do like Donkey Kong more than Donkey Kong Jr. as far as the NES versions go. What I would say is that, at first, when I first played this on Donkey Kong Classics with on my NES, I remember not liking it. And one day I decided to pop it in, playing it with my NES Advantage. That's when it clicked for me. That's when I started liking this version of Donkey Kong. This is the only version of the arcade Donkey Kong game that I've really spent a lot of time with playing. Now, this right here is the first time I played it in about 20 years. Or actually, 20 years. Because there was a time earlier on in college where I would pop in, I'd eat my morning breakfast. My morning breakfast as opposed to my dinner breakfast. I mean, I'm the kind of person who goes to diners at 3 a.m. to have eggs and rice, so who knows. I do have dinner breakfast a lot. But what I would say is that it was something of a revelation to play the NES version of Donkey Kong with the NES Advantage joystick. Because something about the feel of it, it felt more like how it was meant to be played. It felt like playing it more on a real arcade cabinet. And, the charm of it, the difficulty of it, it made me want to actually get good at the game, and I casually would just eat breakfast and play this game. I never got great at it. I never even paid attention to my high scores. I just play through as many cycles as I could, and then I lost interest in it. And that should cover it. I think it's time for us to get started with the star of the show for the day, Game Boy Donkey Kong. Alright, so, let's swap out our, so here's the device I'll be playing it on. I'm using the Analog Pocket. There we go. For those who aren't familiar with it. So I can just put out the cartridge without turning the device off. Switch over to our next game, Layout. And we pop... Now, this cartridge... The original save battery does work. I never replaced the save battery on this. I never owned this back in the 90s. I got this only within the last couple of years. The original save file does work on here, the original save battery. But we will be... do I get the Super Game Boy extras with it? I believe that there's an update for this that lets you use the Super Game Boy features. But it's a little complicated because to run the Super Game Boy features, this thing basically has to simulate a Super Nintendo and a Game Boy at the same time, so it's a little complicated. I haven't done the latest update on here, but I'm going to be playing it in its Game Boy form. But as Zip-Boy is mentioning, this game was enhanced for the Super Game Boy. The Super Game Boy was effectively a Game Boy inside a Super Nintendo cartridge that you popped into your Super Nintendo, you popped the cartridge in, and certain games were programmed with pretty sophisticated color palettes. They could have a border around the outside of the screen, such as with I know a famous example, Donkey Kong was the first game to be enhanced for Super Game Boy. Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow had the Super Game Boy enhancement. And then in addition to those, Space Invaders for Game Boy says that, oh, it's a Super Game Boy enhanced game. It's underselling it. The Game Boy version of Space Invaders has an actual 16-bit Super Nintendo native version of Space Invaders hidden inside the Game Boy cartridge that can be accessed when you play it on Super Game Boy, which is absolutely an absurd of a thing that they even... Oh gosh, okay, so we got an error message. So we'll quit out of there. We'll cross our fingers this time and insert the cartridge. Okay. We're gonna have to get serious with our tech support here. Not recommended, but now let's see. All right, I turned the system off out of habit. Okay, maybe I didn't blow. Hold on. I swear. The last time I blew into this, it genuinely did work afterwards. Let's see. Okay. Why does it make it work? It makes no sense. Why is it work? Why does that make it work? It's not recommended. It's not a good idea. But it just works. Why does that work? Okay, let's drop that right in the dock. Wait for it to show up. And so this game is commonly referred to as Donkey Kong 94 because that's the year that it released in. And a funny thing, this came out the same year as Donkey Kong Country for Super Nintendo, which was a... Donkey Kong Country for Super Nintendo was the first appearance of Donkey Kong's modern appearance when Rare gave them the sort of CG makeover. So on the box here, we have the last proper appearance of the classic style Donkey Kong artwork, the pre-Donkey Kong Country artwork. But in the Donkey Kong Country lore, the Donkey Kong we see on the box here is actually Donkey Kong, the modern Donkey Kong's father. And this character here, Donkey Kong Jr., you probably can't see in the layout. Yeah, Donkey Kong Jr. is the new Donkey Kong. So, let's get started. We'll play for... Okay. Now, I have to adjust the volume. Hold on. What does our volume need to be at? This might be blasting your ears out. I have no idea. It has to be at 19.6. We have to turn this way down. Sorry, everyone. There you go. There's our proper volume. So we've got the stage show type presentation, introducing the characters, showing off. Look at Mario's acrobatics capabilities. He could do handstands, somersaults. He could swing around on poles. This is the first appearance of Mario with such an advanced and varied moveset. I never actually sat down and watched all this before. Yeah, showing more of his moves. Yeah, so if he falls from a certain height, he will get disoriented. Now he swings on the bar. Okay, so are we getting Donkey Kong next, or what? Okay. No, it just said Mario. I'm like, oh, are they going to show Donkey Kong next? Alright. So, Game Boy Donkey Kong. Press start. Let's do it. Yeah, we're gonna... I don't have the heart to, erase the save file that, for all I know, might have been there since the 90s. So we're gonna start on file 2. Here we go. So this animation is from the arcade version, which was not featured in the NES version, where the area starts off level and then Donkey Kong stomps around and damages the level. So here we are at 25 meters. So with the with Mario's new moves, did the game crash? Let's try again. Yeah. Alright. That's not how I expected that to go. The wonders of using original cartridges. Though this is actually the most trouble a cartridge has ever given me on stream. Alright. Let's, you know what? I know this cartridge is clean, but just to eliminate... Why don't we go to break? Why don't we go to break and will run an ad. And yeah, I'll run an ad, and while I do that, I'll get out my alcohol and my Q-tips and clean this cartridge off a bit. So I'll be back in a few minutes. Where's my... There it is. So I'll be back in 5 minutes, during which I will run an ad. So those who are... I don't think anyone should have to suffer through ads, and I don't think people should have to miss parts of my show just because they're not paying to subscribe to me. I think that's silly. If I could disable ads and not make a dime off them, I would. Instead, I'm obligated to run a certain amount of ads. If I don't trigger them manually, Amazon does it for me. And I'm probably going to make a total of $10 for the whole of 2024 off these stupid ads. But I got to trigger them at some point, so I'll do it during the break so no one misses out. I'll drop a credit for the artists. And I'll be back in a few minutes. Hello, we are back, and I got it to work consistently, so far at least. It's worked better than it ever has. You know, it's a funny story. The reason a lot of those old Nintendo guides, like all the official materials, said do never use rubbing alcohol to clean your cartridges, never do it, it's very bad. Yeah, it turns out, like, one of the people from Nintendo, I think it was like Dan Loss, what is, no, Howard, no, yeah, whatever, Howard, and from Howard and Nestor, that guy, I don't know why his name flew out of my head all of a sudden, but he said that Nintendo's legal team was afraid that kids would somehow douse themselves in rubbing alcohol and set themselves on fire, and that's the reason they said not to use rubbing alcohol to clean your cartridges, but it actually does work. Alright, let's get started for real now. But at least we know we won't have any ads to bother us. So you have the introduction like in the arcade, with Donkey Kong stomping around to damage the board. Yeah, you know, it's funny, during the pandemic when there was a run on rubbing alcohol, like, I was like, man, how am I going to clean my games? It's like the least of my... Now, of course, with the moveset, this new moveset that Mario has for this game... Now, you could actually let go of the hammer, which you could not do. Yeah, you can just backflip straight up to the top of the stage. Yeah, Mario's new moveset makes these stages kind of a joke, or at least that particular stage. So there's level 1 down, level 25. Now we're at 50 meters up, and now we're at the cement plant level, known by some as a pie factory. Oh my goodness! I really did not think I was going to land in the cement. I don't think I've... Well, it's not only that I play this stage a bunch, because the only version of Arcade Donkey Kong I play does not have... Oh, well, hey, at least I got the one up before I got burned to death. No, I'm not going to be playing Donkey Kong Jr. today. We're just going to be playing Donkey Kong. I don't even have any version of Donkey Kong Jr. Handy to play, actually. So we just got to get to the top. Yeah, and Donkey Kong Jr., for those who aren't familiar, is the direct sequel to Donkey Kong, in which you play as Donkey Kong Jr. and Mario is the bad guy. And they're also multiple Marios for some reason. I don't know. So here we are at 75 meters. Now, the order of the cement factory and the elevator stage does change depending on which version you play. My favorite order is like the girders, like the classic first level, then this level, then the cement factory, and then the rivets. Oh, come on! I was like pixels away! I was a few pixels away. And the worst, the part that's really messing me up, I'm used to the timing of the NES version. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Mario has like a little momentum slide thing he doesn't have in the... Okay. There we go. Trying to get a... Can you stand on the end of the stage? Okay, yeah, it's not quite touching his... It's overlapping his sprite, but not his hitbox. I guess the part of Mario's body on screen that counts as Mario having failed to dodge the obstacle. Only one more stage to go. This is Mario's first appearance was in Donkey Kong. Then Mario Brothers was the first, canonically the first release of the first appearance of Luigi. Though the Mario Brothers Game & Watch came out like a month or so before the Mario Brothers arcade. All right. Alright, we gotta lure these guys up here. Okay, fine. Oh my goodness, I touched the fire spirit thing. Yeah, like, what are these? Like, the little fire ghosts? Like, it's so kind of odd. You know, I think these little fire ghosts are the first appearance, the first time in Mario that characters were created just by putting those little beady dot eyes on top of an object that otherwise would not be expected to necessarily be a living thing. There we go. Come on. Got him. Got him. Now we'll throw the hammer away, which you cannot do in the arcade. We got all the rivets, so Donkey Kong falls. Now, Clackable, are you familiar with this version of Donkey Kong? Have you seen it before? I know I've been talking about it for years. Uh-oh. It isn't over yet. We're going into... It's interesting because it looks like a medieval walled city, but the city skyline looks like a modern city with skyscrapers. Grabs the key. Uses it in the door and enters the city. Alright, welcome to Game Boy Donkey Kong, in which the original 4 stages of the Donkey Kong arcade game are just the tutorial. And yes, we do have a battery save. Now, this city is presumably the city in which Donkey Kong takes place. But we get another interpretation of the city in which Donkey Kong supposedly took place in the form of New Donk City in Super Mario Odyssey. It's interesting. Let's get started. So I love this street scene with these very simplistic graphics. We establish the sort of back alley, sort of maybe 1940s Brooklyn kind of street scene. Boing! Got throw the trash can at him. So here's how this is the flow of gameplay here. We go around. We jump over obstacles as before. But here, we've got a duck or something. Strange duck. So we have several options. We can walk under there with the ladder, Or we could... Okay. Or we could use the backflip and somersault up. Now, we're going to jump on this duck's head and use him as a platform. Oh my goodness! And I wasn't quick enough to get away, and I ended up getting taken out by him. And this is stage 1-1. It's not even counting those other parts as stages. Alright. We get the umbrella. And just like before, it's the umbrella, the hat, and the purse we can get. We got the... Oh, no, we don't want to go down the stairs. Okay, up. There we go. And up on top of here, we'll grab our... Oh, is that? Yeah, we got the purse. And we grab the key. And grabbing it, you just press B. Oh, and you can throw enemies into... Oh, and we take the key to the door. We walk through the second part of the stage. And for getting all 3 items, we get to play a bonus roulette thingy. So, I'm gonna go in for that one up at the top there. The 2 up, rather. Wow! It's been... I've never played through this properly. I had a unofficial digital copy of the game many years ago, and I played through the first couple of worlds, but I'm like, you know what, I want to play this for real on a Game Boy someday. And now is that day. And that was like 20 years ago, so... But I love... So... Oh my... Why did I get... You start on top of the duck. Just the fact that they put you there is so kind of quirky. Alright. So if we... Oh, there we go. And... So if we... Okay, there we go. We get our hat. So if we throw this up... That... There... We get... Up. And something about this music is so very, like... I don't know, like, they just capture this vibe. You know, I say 1940s, but there are television antennas up there. This very industrial-feeling city. It's just something incredibly I mean, it's funny, I keep naming specific time periods that this reminds me of. But then I go on to say that it's, like, timeless. Now... So we've got all 3 treasures. All we've got left to do is to collect the key. Now if we drop the key, eventually a countdown will appear. If we accidentally... As a protection for us dropping the key someplace inaccessible, the key will reappear in that outlined spot after several moments. Alright. Seems safer to... You can toss the key up, climb up after it, and grab it here. Yeah, see, look at those old-fashioned TV antennas on top of the roof there in the background. Which gives a sense of how high up we are here, jeez. I mean, we were over, like, 75 meters up at the construction site, so... And our second stage, and I think that completes the sequence of this first stage. And for claiming all 3... Oh, we get to play a slot machine this time. Banned in Europe confirmed. Yeah, this is a skill stop slot machine, so we actually do have a bit of a say in our fate. We watch carefully and press the button with precision. Oh no. Okay. You got one Mario ahead, so that's fairly generous compared to a real-life slot machine. Oh, you know what? Oh yeah, each of these stages are individual. I'm inserting Mario vs. Donkey Kong logic in here, in which each stage has a part 1 and part 2. No, each spot on the map is one individual stage here. That's what we're getting at. Okay. Alright. Yeah, so we have electrified wires up there now. Now, I do think it is important for us to get as many one-ups as we... Oh! The trash can came to life. Sneeze there. Excuse me. Yeah, there's some enemies that are just sort of disembodied. Yeah, they are enemies in Mario vs. Donkey Kong that are disembodied critters like this as well, just like a pair of eyes. So we're gonna drop down here. No! Okay, that's... Yeah, I love how the duck sort of panics and is running around like, oh no, he's got the hammer, he's got the hammer. Alright, so we want to get as many one-ups as possible earlier on, because if I remember correctly, this game gets pretty brutal pretty quickly, but it gets difficult very quickly. And all the difficulties I remember having with this game and with the sequel, they were never things that made me think this game is unfair. They're just things that made me think, you gotta be good. Alright. No. Okay. So, what? I feel like I survived. Oh, you know what? I think he started moving again. I forgot that trash can comes to life. I think that's what actually killed me. So, oh my. Of course, I walk straight to the right and get incinerated. Okay. So if we... Why? I feel like I was trying to jump and it wouldn't let me. Yeah, Oscar the Grouch got me. And yeah, and it has... Yeah, they're using those, like, 1970s New York City trash cans. They were very, like... I believe they sort of came into style in the 70s. And by the time I was coming up, there were very few of them left you can see out on the streets. Which is kind of like one of those things where, like I haven't watched Sesame Street in ages. I heard it's not as good as it used to be. I mean, of course, people are like, it's not as good. People say that about anything. But, like... okay. We want to grab... You hit him. There we go. Okay. So now, we're good now. We don't need the hammer anymore. So if I was, like, in Sesame Street, Oscar the Grouch is in that trash can because that's what trash cans looked like in New York City in the 1970s. Meanwhile, it's like, okay, it's iconic that Oscar the Grouch lives in that type of trash can, but I mean, the whole point of Sesame Street was to reflect the realities of kids living in city settings, which were not often depicted in TV, let alone in positive lights in TV, let alone in kids' television. Then, do you want it to look like a modern trash can that today's kids, you know, toddlers... Oh my goodness. Man, this game is... Okay. Or do you keep it the... Man, I'm getting torn up. I'm losing. I've definitely lost all the extra lives I've gotten in the previous stage. Okay, first off... Yeah, I don't know, like, the mice aren't acting afraid. They're acting like they're trying to, like, go on the warpath to get me. They're like, he has the hammer, get him from behind, quickly. You know. I don't know if these are supposed to be ducks. No. What? Okay. Didn't mean to do that, but I'll take it. Okay, so you can fall and land right there on the wire. So we're gonna shimmy on over. And man, imagine the nerve you'd have to no, well now since we already got the necklace, you can just somersault up here. take the key to the door and move on. Yeah, that sure cost us enough lives. Hopefully we can get a 3-up out of this minigame. 7. We'll end up not having a net negative. Okay, we got a 1-up. Oh, it's a Donkey Kong fight here? I forgot what this fight is even like. I have no idea what this fight's gonna be like. Huh. What am I supposed to do? So I jump? Huh. There's no... Oh, there's a... Oh! I didn't... Okay, this is the first time we've done any serious horizontal... Okay, this is the first time we've horizontally scrolled. So I'm sitting here... We've done vertical scrolling. I haven't done any horizontal scrolling. So I'm sitting here like, how am I supposed to get up there? Oh, you... Okay. Alright. Makes a lot more sense now. And that's why I'm glad I waited as long as I did. Because I had lots of opportunities I could have played this game. But I wanted to have as authentic and fresh of an experience as possible. Alright, I don't know if it's deliberate that there just happened not to be any items falling right down the path of the ladder. Okay. Oh, so... Oh, yeah, they use these little animations to introduce new stage design elements. So there's the bridge item. I honestly don't even remember that specifically being a thing in Mario vs. Donkey Kong. Alright, we're up to 11 lives. Not bad. Because I know we're definitely going to be burning through a lot of these lives. Alright. Donkey Kong goes through the door. So here we are. Alright, so you can't pick these guys up. So if we... Oh! How did I... Oh, so I can choose where to put the bridge. But alright. It only lasts for a few moments. Alright. So we'll put the bridge right here. Pick up the key and stroll on across. Doodle-doo, doodle-doo. And 11 lives. And we got I like the other minigame more, like the roulette type minigame. It's not exactly roulette, it's more like a spinning wheel, but... Oh. Okay, we got one Mario ahead, so... Alright. New enemy type I see there? Yeah, this new walking flame... It's Heat's Flames Man from Undertale. Oh. Yeah, I did not think the bridge would stop where the fire dude was at. Actually, that's kind of a suboptimal spot to put the ladder because that's the spot where the guy is destined to be spending the most time. Oh wait, I have to make the ladder here so I can climb down. You know, it's kind of interesting having these quasi-stage builder elements in the game like this. Got it! Yeah, there we go. First try. How about that? Alright, this is the one where we have the potential to get only 1s and 2s this time, no 3s, but... I aimed for the 2 at the bottom on the left. Wow, I'm great at this minigame, apparently. There's no real delay I could detect. I'm sure if you're a pro, super hardcore gamer, you could detect delay. I've never experienced the sense of non-instantaneous reflection of my button presses with the action on screen and my playing of classic games on HD solutions. Be that cartridges played via FPGA and native outputting HDMI that output natively to HDMI, or digital versions of games on on a modern system that is HDMI. Yeah, I've never experienced the sense of like my inputs aren't as fast as they should be. Never. Yeah, if I played more with original hardware, and I'd have to get probably solutions like the Frame Meister. I know they're probably better equivalents, but I know like the Frame Meister is the first device of that nature I've heard of personally. Alright. Now what do I... Okay, let's actually look at what I want to do. So if I put the ladder there... I'm gonna wait till the timer runs out, because... Wait, actually, I could get the duck. Actually, no, first... No. I don't want to put the duck... Oh, yeah. I think I see... Okay. Alright. Alright. Okay. Okay, we're good. We're good. Now the trick here... Alright. There you go. Get all 3 items and get the key to the door. I'd love to know at what point did they decide, hey, let's make a puzzle platformer with Mario and use the Donkey... Like, did this start off as a port of Donkey Kong and then decided, hey, let's add more stages. Oh, let's make a full-fledged puzzle platformer game. And we'll give all these... No! This is the first time I ever flat out fully lost the slot machine. Okay. So I think... No! Okay, okay. Oh, he mad. So, I think one more should do it. 3 hits. You know that Mario Odyssey nonsense where it's like, aha, it's the 4th hit, you need a 5th hit. Alright. Oh, we're entering a new area? Oh, you have a drawbridge? And sadly, this means we're now if the entire game just used that same city motif, I would have thought it was amazing. All the different themings that we do is great, but the city... I mean, I'm a city kid. I grew up in New York City, so of course I'm going to love the city motif the most. Especially with that sort of period atmosphere it has. Ah... We're in the forest now. Donkey Kong should have a natural advantage here. But before we get into that, let's do some reading on the history of this game. Man, look at all of the stages we've got here. Hold on. First, I want to take a look at something real quick. Just taking a look at how my stream looks to those, to the kids at home and adults at home. Let me take a look at the stream itself. Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I'm so torn on my dot matrix sort of simulated. Like, no one's complained about it. Everyone seems to like the way that that my capture card makes and my hardware makes the game look in stream. No one's complained about it. I don't think the actual. This is a good way to physically simulate how it felt to look at a Game Boy screen without, with all the advantages of being actually able to see the screen. But for now, why don't we do a little reading about the illustrious history of this game? We're going to check out Nintendo Power. This is March 94, I guess. Yeah, this will be March 94. And so this is an era when I was not reading Nintendo Power. Wario Land, Super Mario Land 3. I did not get this game till a couple of years after this. And I have not played Super Mario Land 3, Wario Land, since 2001, one of my favorite games of all time. A game I sold to a neighbor to try to get some pocket money for my Game Boy Advance. But this game has there's a preview for Game Boy Donkey Kong in here. And I would like to check it out. No, actually, first, there's something I would like to... There we go. 1, 2... so let me take a look at something in my plans, okay? Hold on. So... one, two, three, four, five. Sorry, everyone. 6, 7, 8. Yeah. You know what? I think I know how I'm going to deal with this. I think I know. How about we aim to beat 1 world per stream? Because I'm looking, in addition to playing some other games. Where's my all my stuff? Okay, there we go. Yeah, we're gonna beat 1 world per stream. That seems like this is gonna fit perfectly with my long-term streaming plans, and that'll open me up to play some other games. Yeah, this is gonna be really cool, and spend more time reading these magazines. So let's check out what we've got here. Look at this asparagus they decided to put in the frame. So we're playing Donkey Kong 94 before, right here with the Analog Pocket, and now we're going to be reading a magazine, the first Nintendo Power to have a preview of this. I have not pre-screened it, I just know that this game is featured here. So here's Nintendo Super Power Club. Yeah, this, time is running out. What is this going to be pushing? The first Nintendo Power Super Power Supplies catalog expires on 94. Okay. So, we've got Wario Land, Mario Land 3. Now, I had Mario Land 1 and 2. When I got my Game Boy in 95, I had Super Mario Land 1 and 2. Wario Land I got a couple years... No, actually, it was actually probably 96. At the time, it felt like a lifetime away. But, oh, look at, as late as 95, we've already got... No, actually, Nintendo... Angry Video Game Nerd did an episode where he talked about the specific letter here. The game I purchased that was completely different than what I expected was Rambo for the NES. I saw him firing a machine gun on the package, and it looked really cool, so I bought it. When I got home, I started to play the game. It was boring. All you could do was walk around and fight with a knife. The only enemies I met were spiders, gorillas, bugs, etc., and you moved around by standing on blocks labeled N or S for north or south. It was a real disappointment. Now here's something really interesting. About 7... Oh, Bill Preston said they hadn't played Rambo, but it seems like a Zelda 2 clone. Yeah, from what I understand, in Japan, Rambo came out after Zelda 2. The way the localization of Zelda 2 went, in North America, Zelda 2 was on the market for NES before... Rambo was on the market before Zelda 2, which must have been really strange. I mean... Yeah, if you watched... You know, it's funny, there was this thing, I know, I knew kids growing up, their parents wouldn't let them see RoboCop or Friday the 13th, but they let them play the video games now, because video games, even the Friday the 13th game, it was not, shockingly violent. Not that I saw it back then, but I heard of it. The RoboCop video games, they weren't really shocking or graphically violent or anything. So here we got... About 7 months ago, I purchased Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. I was thinking it would be somewhat like Final Fantasy II. As it turned out, I was wrong. It was too easy, and the fun of freely exploring the world was gone. Don't get me wrong, the graphics are wonderful, and it's good for beginners. After I bought it, it turned out to be a disappointment. Yeah, so... Final Fantasy Mystic Quest is interesting, because it's often... I don't see this as much, but at one point it would often get panned or sort of mocked, oh, Square thought Americans were so stupid, they made a dumbed-down, watered-down RPG for us stupid Americans, and what an insult this game was to us. But that's a very easy thing to think in a post-Pokemon, post-Final Fantasy VII world, and yeah, Azra's saying, yikes. Now, this is a game I want to play on stream someday. Actually, yeah, I think I know exactly how I'd love to play this game someday. I've never played it. Years and years ago, I watched a Pro Jared review of it, and he didn't take it in this. He did. It was a very simple entry-level role-playing game, which is what it says. Literally says entry-level role-playing experience, or something like that on the box. But instead of thinking, oh, Square, they thought us Americans were too stupid for RPGs, that's easy to think in a world where RPGs are a mainstream franchise, or a mainstream genre. But you have to think, Square wanted RPGs to pick up in popularity so much, they created an entire game just to introduce players who are familiar with platform games, action games, space shooters, with how to manage your character growth, how to play a game with that's more narrative driven, and where you're building characters that are equipped to meet specific tasks in these turn-based encounters. So I think it's really cool, actually, that they wanted to make this game, even if the experiment didn't quite work out the way they hoped. Yeah, players. Yeah, so we'll skip the rest of these. 1-800-255-3700. That number still works to this day. I just want to turn off the analog pocket, put it to sleep, because we don't need it on right now. So we got some basketball game coverage. Tap into the 4-player jamming fun. Yeah, so it's the 4-player multi-tap. And the success of games like these was what I think really did encourage Nintendo to go ahead and dedicate to putting 4 controller ports on the Nintendo 64 as standard. Which, if the Nintendo 64 did not have 4 controller ports as standard, I honestly believe that the N64 would not have been as popular as it was, because a lot of its strongest strength was those, 4-player Mario Kart, 4-player GoldenEye, and the like. 4-player, those Conker's mini games. I never actually got to play those. But, oh yeah, we've got, a lot of... Oh, Wolfenstein 3D. Probably slightly censored, or significantly censored. Yeah, this game is about, fighting Nazis. And they, had to take all the references to Hitler out of the game. So you're just fighting some non-specific bad guys. And at this point, our layout, at this point, having strategy guides and gaming magazines was just as important as the previews and reviews and tricks and just codes. Now this is a game, Stunt Race FX. This is a game that is available on the Nintendo Switch Online Super Nintendo library. It uses the Super FX chip, I believe. Yeah, when Star Fox was released 1 year ago, the Super NES players got a glimpse of the future with fast 3D scrolling worlds of fun. Now we have the second Super FX game is about to release. You'll see that the future is nearly here. And Nintendo's Stunt Race FX puts you behind the wheel of vehicles with lives of their own. Even this early, unfinished version, you can see that this game is heading for a championship season. So yeah, so you have these cartoon cars depicted with sort of and the artwork is claymation or clay models, whereas with like Clay Fighter and Claymates, those games actually were animated using clay, which is kind of absurd that they. Now this is a game I'm very interested in playing, you know, and it's great that this SN30 Pro corded controller is available. Because I use this to play my Analog Pocket. I plug this into the dock, but this also works with a Nintendo Switch. And the great thing about that is that this will let me play Super Nintendo games with an appropriate style controller without having to fight to try to get the having to fight to get one of those stupid Super NES Nintendo Switch Online controllers that go up every once in a while. They're sold out. Then they get resold at high prices. Yeah, so look at this. This is interesting. Yes, Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. So it's like being in a sci-fi movie, borrowing a line from Zoda's Revenge, a game I need to play someday in the long future. Now, CES, Consumer Electronics Show. This was basically North American gaming industry's E3 before there was E3. And '95, this is the last year before E3 began. And '95, E3 was an immediate success. But Consumer Electronics Show was a big event for the game industry in North America, but Consumer Electronics Show really kind of explicitly disrespected video games there. They were kind of like, this is an electronics show, this is for stereo systems, this is for computers, cameras, this is, for televisions, and you're coming here with these toys. This is not a toy convention, get this out of here. Like when Sega debuted the Mega Drive as the Genesis in North America, they wanted to do it at Consumer Electronics Show, and CES was like, yeah, sure, you can be at Consumer Electronics Show. We'll give you a tent and outside the back of the building where it's raining. So they're raining. There's stories of like they're under these tents, and there's rain dripping through these tents on the TVs and Genesis units, because people running CES just did not respect video games as a form of consumer electronics. These are children's toys, and that's a stigma that somehow the video game industry is still fighting to this day. But Robbie Gordon and Jeff Andretti took on challengers in the Stunt Race FX course. They brought some celebrities to play their racing games. Unfortunately, we'll have to wait till later this year to play the first Project Reality arcade games. The demonstrations of Silicon Graphics technology had showgoers counting down the minutes. Jim Clark, president of SJI, answered one of the biggest questions: how will Nintendo be able to offer so much for so little? Clark explained how the economics of scale have reduced the price of personal computers from thousands of dollars to hundreds in less than 10 years. In CES, Nintendo announced that the system will use mega game packs with at least 100 megabits of memory, 5 times larger than any game, accessing data at 2 million times the speed of most CD-ROMs. So I guess if this was an E3, if Super Metroid would have been one of their big games. This was Super Metroid was a major release for Nintendo this year, and I don't see it so much now. Well, I don't keep up with Metroid documentaries, but I saw a YouTube, documentary of Super Metroid, and essentially they were saying like, oh, Super Metroid came out at the dying days of the Super Nintendo's lifespan, with Sega, with PlayStation on the market and Super Nintendo already on the way. It's like, yes, you could look at PlayStation launched December '94, but that doesn't mean, oh, PlayStation's out, the Super Nintendo age is dead. Like, you're going to see Super Nintendo Genesis coverage a couple of years into the lifespans of the N64, Saturn, and Saturn really only had a couple of years, frankly, sadly, and the PlayStation. So the transition period is not maybe as strict and as rigid as it is nowadays. Super Nintendo, 1994, you were in the prime of the 16-bit generation, in my opinion, and in my experience at the time, I knew of, PlayStation's on the way. I didn't think, the Super Nintendo and Genesis are dead. PlayStation's out now. I thought Sony's making a game system. They need to stick to making TVs and stereos. No one's going to buy a Sony game system. Now, mind you, I said that in the context of, like, Philips and, the CDI, the 3DO. All these companies were coming out with these multimedia CD systems. PlayStation just seemed like it was going to be another one of those to me at first. Yeah, life-size Beavis and Butthead. Oh, R-Type 3. And by the way, you're listening to original music. I just want to drop a link to all the credits for my artists and musicians. Yeah, so, Metal Marines. Oh, a mech? It looks like a strategy mech game. Okay. Not quite my thing, but I love some giant robots. The theming's cool, probably not the gameplay. The most hardcore strategist type of game I ever played was Myth 2 Soul Blighter, which I played on the Macintosh, which remains the Bungie game I've spent the most time on. I played a little Halo 1 and on the original Xbox that I had, and that's it. Flintstones. And it's kind of funny because Flintstones is so out of date this time. They'd be in the occasional little made-for-TV movie or straight-to-VHS special, but you have to remember, in the early 90s, the Flintstones is still on circulation on network TV as just kids programming, so... Oh, Video Game College. Now, I know DigiPen is one, but let's check this out. Now, they are working... yeah, this person's working on what appears to be a Macintosh 2. Yeah, I see the little Apple logo there. So, this is... Yeah, so we're on our way to get to the coverage of... I might as well keep this... of Donkey Kong 94 that's on here. Which I believe this Nintendo Power does have that first coverage of this game, which we played earlier and beat the first world of. Let's, if you were to take a poll of young video game fans asking what career they would like to pursue, it would be a good bet that a fair percentage would reply with an occupation that simply has to do with video games. To make games, working for a video game manufacturer would be a dream come true. As it turns out, many students in Japan have the same ambitions. Luckily for them, they have an avenue to make their occupational dream come true. In Tokyo, Osaka, and Nagoya, there are schools or colleges that teach students exactly how to produce video games. Some of those schools are supported by video game manufacturers, but some are vocational schools that offer specific video game courses. Now let's check this out. Many video game manufacturers have grown rapidly over the past several years. Presently, there's a high demand for people who could step up and take on a video game project, seeing it through from concept stages to finished project. Video Game College, the combination of demand from video game manufacturers and demand from students who are interested in this field has prompted the startups of video game colleges. It's like any other business, so there's demand. Companies will profit by being able to provide a supply. For students desiring to work for a video game manufacturer, attending a game college can put them on the fast track to a company that produces games. The more knowledge they have, the more valuable they will be to a company. While many Japanese businesses are beginning to experience limited growth, no growth, or negative growth, the video game industry is still surging ahead. We're more than happy to report that people are still desperately have a need for fun in their lives. Alright. Most of the video game colleges in Japan offered a 2 to 4 year curriculum. During this time, students will learn the ins and outs of programming and marketing games, programming in various computer languages, developing concepts, composing music, designing graphics, writing scenarios, and marketing products are just some of the areas that students will be educated in by the time they graduate. Alright. Now, I know at one point, Nintendo of America became very involved with DigiPen, to the point where I believe like one of DigiPen's buildings is directly connected to one of NOA's buildings, and there's like a big alarmed security bolted door between them, but... I'm checking this out. Yeah, This is like this article, like even the way it's presented is so un-Nintendo Power like. This is like a magazine, an article. If you want to, oh, okay, here we go. There's the school I was talking about, a college age future. One of the questions that may pop into your mind as you read this article is, when are we going to see game colleges open in North America? Though there are currently no video game colleges in the US, DigiPen Applied Computer Graphics School in Vancouver, British Columbia will begin accepting applications this June for a 2-year program beginning in September. The focus of the course is technology. Nintendo of America has provided the DigiPen School with Super NES development systems. During the second year of the course, students will create Super Nintendo video games using the development systems and information gathered from the first year. Yeah, so at this point, and so 94, I didn't realize that DigiPen originated out of Canada. I've known of them as being based in Washington. I guess, you know what? If Nintendo's involved here, they probably got involved. Yeah, DigiPen probably opened a campus in the US specifically because of their involvement with Nintendo. So you got a bunch of codes for games I've never played. Tricks. Oh, Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. There's a game I've played. Now look at this here. Now this shows you how to do a screen warp trick that I know is famous. Now it says, note, this trick may not work on future versions of the game. So it's interesting that as manicured and strict as Nintendo is, that they would highlight the existence of a glitch and actually say, like, hey, in future versions we may take this out. Chapter 2. Oh, we have the Super Metroid comic. This is something I've heard about over the years. And honestly, you know what? I really do miss. I miss this grittier, more mature. I mean, in terms of, like, she's physically older. Like, in the Metroid game, Samus like the modern Metroid game, Samus in her Zero suit, outside of her power suit, looks kind of like she might be in her early 20s. I've been marking. I want to play. We're gonna read the Star Fox comic when we play the Star Fox game, which I do have plans for. Nothing concrete yet, but I have plans for it. There was one point where I was only about a month away from playing Star Fox on Super Nintendo, but fate intervened and my original streaming PC died, and by the time I got back, other things were going on. But yeah, I like her look as being in her, perhaps her 40s. I like the more, like, in terms of age, the older, more matured Samus. Now, yeah, we're gonna look through these comics later on, and the last time she really looked like older, so to speak, was in, oh, we have other characters in Powered Armor, that's cool. Was, when she takes off her helmet in Metroid Prime, she has that older, she looks like she's maybe in her 40s. And ever since, really, Metroid Fusion kind of established that the younger, sort of more anime girl-looking look, and Zero Mission really, like, nailed it down. But when you go to Metroid Prime 3, she has that look when she's outside of her power suit. And it is what it is. And then I see people, I mean, some of whom may not have been around when Metroid Prime came out, that are like, oh, I hate how she looks in Metroid Prime. They made her look so old. I'm like, no, you're just used to this anime girl look they've established since then. But earlier depictions of Samus was of her being an older woman. Not that she's gonna get half off pancakes at IHOP or anything, but she was not. But all right, so she was. We're more than 2/3 of the way through the magazine. We have not seen any. Okay, so I'm gonna bookmark. We're gonna scroll right through this. Because I haven't played Wario Land in more than 22 years, 23 this year, and I'd love to be as fresh as possible in this. Zoda's Revenge, Star Tropics 2. I've not played anything. All I know about Star Tropics is that there's a yo-yo that they call a star because someone owed the trademark for yo-yo in Canada specifically, so they called it a star instead of a yo-yo. That's all I know about Star. Oh my gosh. This kid just got doxxed. I'm sure he doesn't live there anymore. Yeah, he did this puzzle and never sent it in. That's interesting. Nintendo Power Top 20. Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. Yeah, this Link's Awakening's a game I have very interesting plans to cover. Super Mario Land 2, we never beat that. I never beat that. I got to the Wario's Castle, and there was like some other game, like there was a new game coming out. I wanted to play it on launch, so I moved on to that quickly, if I remember correctly. Because Mario's Castle, Wario's Castle is a gauntlet. I don't think there's a single enemy. It's just pure, listen, undercover cops, Legend, Ren and Stimpy, Fire Dogs, the Peacekeepers, Orbitus, Lost Mission, Andre Agassi Tennis, Wario Land, Super Mario Land 3. Where's... Okay, Pack Watch. Now let's check out Super Metroid. This is going to be interesting. The Pack Watchers have been... The game your Pack Watchers have been waiting for has finally arrived at Nintendo America after 2 years of development of Nintendo Company Limited in Kyoto. That was 2 years with hardly any word except the game was going to be huge. No lie, our unfinished copy of Super Metroid stands at 20 megabits, and it's likely to bulk up to 24 megabits in the finished version. But vast memory muscle is the least of the great news for Metroid fans. For 2 years we wondered if the game would live up to the play control and innovation of the original Metroid game hit for the NES. Wonder no more. The play control is exceptional, and Samus has more cool moves than ever before to fight her way past both familiar and brand new enemies on planet Zebes. For instance, once you find the new grappling beam, Samus can swing from the ceiling over obstacles and enemies. Even the original elements take on new forms, such as bubble hatches that open up or down. Nowhere is the blend of familiar and new elements so apparent as in the opening moments of the game, when you'll find yourself back in the ruins of Mother Brain's chamber. After battling a dragon-like alien who swoops out of the background using intensely realistic Mode 7 scaling, Samus must relive the escape sequence from the original Metroid, and now has to escape the rock tunnels as it sways the base self-destructs. If you make it out, Samus' ship blasts out in front of the exploding base, and that's just for starters. That's interesting, because what they may be mistaken, but what they're describing is as though the game starts... Now, your time on planet Zebes the first area you go to is the original base of a Mother Brain's lair, and that's a screenshot here. They seem to be implying that you encounter Ridley here, and that the base self-destructs. I wonder if this is... I don't know. I don't think they would have changed that much, because the final game starts off on board an orbital space colony where there's a laboratory where the last Metroid is stolen by Ridley. I think they might have gotten a little confused here. If this was from 93, sure, but this is 94. This seems kind of late in the game to change something that dramatically. At the same time, we're dealing with a age when potentially changing something like this doesn't mean you have to completely reanimate a full motion video cutscene to fit with story changes. I don't know, huh? So, time tracks, Mr. Nuts and Soccer Kid. Here we go. This is what we came here for. This one little blurb here. For those of you who missed the original Donkey Kong craze back in the early 80s, the idea is that a giant ape, Donkey Kong, has kidnapped Pauline, Mario's girlfriend, and has climbed up a building. Mario must make his way up the building while avoiding traps and hazards. This game will be 4 megabits, as large as Wario Land, and will contain a battery. The first stages duplicate the original arcade game, but the new Donkey Kong goes much further with a total of 100 construction site puzzles. Donkey Kong will also include adventure elements like hidden rooms and keys. Look for it this summer. Now, it's kind of interesting. We're at a point in Nintendo's history where they have to explain the concept of Donkey Kong. Because at this point in Nintendo's history, Donkey Kong has not been relevant since the earlier days of the NES. The last Donkey Kong game for a Nintendo system had really been Donkey Kong Classics for NES, which had been just a repackaging of Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. And this is now mind you, this is the year, 94 here is the year Donkey Kong Country came out, but it's before that game hit the market. So you're at a point where, yeah, there could have been a lot of people, a lot of kids, old enough to be reading Nintendo Power, be looking for the hot new games, but might have gotten the NES later in its lifespan, never played Donkey Kong or Donkey Kong Jr., and need to have Donkey Kong explained to them. Now, there was a rumor of a new Donkey Kong game. Why wasn't this made for the Super NES? Why Game Boy? You know what? I probably because they thought that these puzzle stages... Yeah, I'm thinking of the Japanese market here, Zip Boy, and that's a really good question, something I didn't think about till you mentioned it, but just in you mentioning it gives me enough of a... In Japan, the culture, especially in the urban areas, even in suburban areas, is so developed around mass transit and train travel, and a lot of people can take the bus to school or work daily. So think of these little... Like when they did Super Mario 3D Land, they said, hey, we wanted to make, for 3DS, we wanted to make stages, we wanted to take Mario Galaxy-like levels, but make them short stages that could be beaten in a subway trip between just a couple of stops away. And so, when you look at these puzzle platforming stages in Donkey Kong, you go into one stage, you play it for a couple minutes, and you're done with it. That's something that's digestible on a short train or bus ride, and I think that's why when they decided, hey, we're going to make a puzzle platforming game with all these little stages in it, we're going to take it on the handheld, because at that point, Tetris, I mean, the Game Boy, and at least in North America, had around 91, Nintendo was in a video explaining how to sell Game Boy to people. They said, hey, don't just sell it to kids, sell it to the adults too. Half of our Game Boy owners, not just people buying it for their kids, but owners, active players, are adults who have time to kill on bus rides, train rides, have time to kill in waiting rooms, and need something to do. So we have games like Tetris, a hit on Game Boy. Nintendo commissioned Intelligent Systems to make a Game Boy version of Tetris Attack, when in Japan there was only a Super Famicom equivalent to that game. There was no handheld equivalent in Japan with the original release of Panel Dipon. So Nintendo's like, hey, we want, for our North American market, we want there to be handheld puzzle games. We need you to make a handheld version of Tetris Attack. Yoshi's Cookie, Yoshi, known as Mario and Yoshi in Japan and North America. All those Tetris spin-offs like Tetris Blast, Tetris 2. So Donkey Kong 94, it's a bit more of it's a puzzle platformer fusion, but it does make sense in that sense, and I think that's why they chose the Game Boy instead of the Super Nintendo. And plus, Nintendo would have been aware that Donkey Kong Country was under development too, so we could have the more technically impressive game as in the form of Donkey Kong Country on the Super Nintendo, and then have an homage, an expansion of the original Donkey Kong arcade concept on the Game Boy. So we're going to have a break in about 40 seconds. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go to our break screen, give ourselves a 2-minute break. When we come back, we're going to finish this Nintendo Power issue, and then we're going to do... I want to see some proper coverage of Donkey Kong before we finish this first stream up of Donkey Kong 94. So we're going to read the next Nintendo Power that has the proper preview or review of the game. So I'll be back in 2 minutes. Get up and stretch while you do your ad, and we'll be back for some more Nintendo Power. Hey, we're back just in time for the Robotnik boss music from Sonic the Hedgehog on Game Gear and Master System to fade away. But we can still enjoy this music from the NES game by Rare, who later reinvented the Donkey Kong series with Donkey Kong Country. So let's finish this magazine, then we'll move on to the next Nintendo Power that actually has proper coverage of this. So, new Game Boy titles. Preview of Super Metroid. 7th Saga. Arrow the Acrobat, another one of those animal mascots with attitude. Never actually played the games, but I heard they're good. Yeah, I don't think these coupons are... I don't think this currency is neither legal nor tender any longer. Oh yeah, we watched years ago. We watched a couple of those Nintendo training videos, and I'd like to, thank Nintendo for not going on the warpath and letting those just exist on YouTube. That's more cooperation than I could hope for. So, but yeah, so down here, oh, you got a bunch of Nintendo tie-in serial thing. Oh yeah, again, he's gonna fix my, oh, he's waiting. 1-800-255-3700. A number, yeah, and the VOD, that VOD still exists, if I remember correctly. It should still exist, but let's move on to... Oh no, okay. Alright, so we'll look at Nintendo Power next time. We'll look at EGM instead, because that's what I have open. So look at this. We're dealing with 1994 first picks of Ultra 64 games. I don't know if... I'm not sure if I have it up or not. I don't know if it's public. I think there's some commercials that might have been on there that are no longer... like, that had music on it that got copyright claimed. I don't know. I'll have to... Alright, so... Spider-Man Venom Maximum Carnage. I believe that game had unlicensed music that was just taken from, like, real-life mainstream commercial bands. You have this comic book-like ad for Breath of Fire. Alright, check this out. War has been declared. Game systems gear up for some stiff competition. 4 new systems are coming your way, and we have all the info you need. The new Neo Geo CD-ROM has an incredible load time of 14 to 28 seconds. Wow, only 14 to 28 seconds. And those are the kind of load times we're look, they say only a speed time of 14 to 28 seconds. Like, I mean, things that those are the sorts of that's what you're dealing with a CDB system at the time. So it's very easy to go back and say, Nintendo, what were they thinking using cartridges? There was obviously obsolete, obviously the way of the past. It's like, you know, using a hydrogen zeppelin in, like, when it's clearly the way to go is with a jet airplane if you're going to fly across the ocean. It's like, no, at the time, at the moment they made that decision, there were many reasonable factors with which they can make that decision. And what I will say on top of that is that imagine jumping into the painting in Mario 64 and you have a 15 to 30 second load time. Because I had PlayStation 1 and N64. I was not rich growing up. I was blessed to have both. Imagine, I know what those load times on PlayStation 1 were like. At the time, I kind of didn't mind them. They were kind of, I'm like, cool, it's actually loading the game with a laser off of a compact disc. This is so cool. But, like, jumping into a painting in Mario 64 and then seeing a load screen, it just wouldn't have been the same. And Zippy Boy in chat is saying they wish Nintendo would bring back the branding like Ultra and Super again. The 90s were a simpler time. Yeah, Nintendo ended up having to change the name of the Ultra 64 because the Ultra games held the trademark for the use of Ultra in a video game company. And ironically, Konami only made the Ultra Games brand to get around Nintendo's own strict limits on how many games a particular company could release on the NES. Because if you look at the original Metal Gear, well, not the original Metal Gear. The original Metal Gear was on MSX. But if you look at the Metal Gear on NES, that wasn't released under Konami. That was released under Ultra Games, along with like Skate or Die, Defender of the Crown. Those types of games were released under Ultra instead of Konami. To get around Nintendo's limits, like, oh, Konami's already released so many games. We'll just make a fake holding company, release games under that label. And plus, Ultra, it's a more easily relatable name as opposed to Konami. Oh, it's some Japanese-sounding name. What is this? I mean, it's on Nintendo, which is as Japanese as sounding as you can get. Now, just to drop my VODs in chat, and for those who might not have been around keeping up with my lore, do take off my glasses and go out of character for a moment. So basically what happened in my setting so far is I was watching an online radio station, and there were ads for some kind of creepy crypto mining scheme, and I was ignoring all of them. They were trying to promote it with like, oh, call our number now and you'll we'll send you a Beach Babes DVD. We'll send you body protein powder stuff. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And then they sent there was an ad for a lots of trains DVD that included footage of the former Long Island's Railroad line to 116th Street in Rockaway, which is where I grew up, and there's no steam era or surface footage of that line. So I was like, oh boy, I've got to call. So I call, and I start getting creepy calls from this weird AI robot thing called the Advanced Controller of the Great Currency. And in today, I finally got permission to open this box that they shipped me last week and told me not to open. Then they called me and were mad because I opened it, and it had this creepy XLO handset and these weird instructions, and they said to let it charge for a week before I turned it on. So I'll be streaming Wednesday, but on Saturday I will actually turn this phone on and see if I get a call from this weird crypto mining company. They also sent me these two weird floppy disks that they're lucky that I even have a computer. Like, my streaming PC does have a floppy drive external so that I could run old DOS games and stuff off the original media. So they're lucky I even have the ability to run these games or whatever this is. So we will explore that next week, and for anyone who's interested can catch up after the stream with that playlist. But moving on, let's check out more of this EGM, and then we'll call it a stream. Now, hold on. Let me pull up. Yeah, so Sony's PlayStation boasts an advanced 3D engine, CPU chip, and decompression system. Toys aren't just for the kids. The Tokyo Toy Show shows why. So, The Twisted Tales of Spike McFang. I have never heard of this. It looks like a vampire game? Oh yeah, and in that inaugural stream, we're watching lots of old train videos as well as playing games. Because what I like to do, sometimes I'll have some old non-copyright enforced train VHS tapes in the upper right, and then I'll have my webcam down here, and then I'll have the game on the side. Have a fun old time. But, and I will be bringing back the Sodor lore reading sometime in the near future as well, but, check this. Okay, this will be interesting. Which is better? My friend Mike and I always have arguments over which is better, Genesis or Super NES. I say Genesis because of its games, some of which may suck, but usually the games kick butt. But Mike always comes up with something like, but Nintendo has some odd number of colors, or it just has better graphics, or the Super NES version is better than the Sega version. I just looked at the March issue of EGM, read articles about what Sega is coming out with and how they're beating Super NES. I want you to try to settle this argument. Find out from the top people, kids, parents, whatever, which is better. And I read the articles about what Sega is coming out with and how they're beating Super NES. Yeah, this was about the turning point at which that started to change, because, I mean, Sega got their system out first. They were able to get it out at a low price. They had a very aggressive marketing campaign against Nintendo. I mean, hey, my first system is Game Gear. My first game I ever played was, is it in my little, yes, here it is. Oh, something fell out the box. I'll check that later. Is this copy right here of Game Gear Sonic the Hedgehog, which we actually played on stream a couple of weeks ago now. It feels like forever ago. It also feels like yesterday. But yeah, one of the earliest, it was like the second stream of the year. Yeah, we played Sonic on Game Gear, which is the first game I ever streamed actually, back in 2020. But yeah, between the Sega CD disappointing, the 32X disappointing, the surprise release of the Saturn during their E3 press conference, without warning, yeah, this is about the point at which Nintendo did end up beating out the Genesis in the end, but all systems have their share of substandard games when it comes to it goes with the territory. The Super NES performs best with fighting games, arcade translations, RPGs, and side-scrolling adventure games. Genesis succeeds in the area of sports, action games, and shooters. If you're a fighting game maniac... Oh, by the way, speaking of shooters for the Genesis, I have I think Musha is either if Musha is not on the Super Nintendo Classic Edition. I mean, no, not Super Nintendo. If it's not on Nintendo Switch Online Genesis Library, it is on either the Genesis Mini or the Genesis Mini 2. Musha is definitely on there. That's a game I have never played. I want to play it. I love my space shooters. I have not played a single one in years. There are just so many games I want to play that I've not gone around to. Unfortunately, Genesis loses out in arcade translations, however, because that's a type of game that demands colors and sounds that the Genesis unfortunately does not have. Both companies stress their good points, and Sega releases a lot of sports and action games because they know that the Genesis is best suited to handle those types of games. Not that the Super NES doesn't do a fine job. Nintendo releases games that take advantage of the Super NES's capabilities like Mario Kart, Super Metroid, and Zelda. So I guess the answer is they're both good, just depends on the games I like to play. Yeah, nice balanced answer. Because it's almost like they want to sell... What is this? Psycho Letter of the Month. I've been a loyal reader and subscriber since your very first year and always thought you the best. Now, Zippy Boy is saying, I wish the days of renting console Blockbusters in the late 90s. It was always a fun weekend. Never owned an N64 again. I remember going to a friend's house. I owned an N64 at this point, but he was a friend who lived further away. Very far away. Not, like, he lived, like, about an hour away. So I'm at his house. And he didn't have N64. And I just remember, like, we both, like, pooled, like, Banjo-Kazooie just came out. We pooled our money, our allowance money. We rode our bikes over to Blockbuster. Because Blockbuster was just on the edge of where we were allowed to go to. And we rented an N64 and brought it all the way, carried it all the way back and hooked it up and with Banjo-Kazooie. And I guess he used his parents' video card. I forgot if he had it was a Blockbuster or mom and pop places. I feel like a Blockbuster wouldn't let a kid, because we had to put a deposit down on it and everything. How do I promote my zine? I'm a soon-to-be fanzine editor, and I've run into one problem. I don't know how to advertise nationwide. I realize there are several lists and fanzines, but their place and address is similar to that of your January 93 Turbo Force article, but as of now, I don't know how to get my fanzine on any of those lists. And, yeah, fanzines were somewhat of, the internet in slow motion. Now this thing is cool. Yeah, that big carrying case that made it look like you're carrying, like a sample of like uranium or something super big and important. Now, this is something I daydreamed of back in the day. Now, I didn't even have a Genesis, but I don't know if they ever made a... Now, look at this contraption. You put the video jukebox cartridge in the top. Then, you could put up to 6 cartridges. It's like a little server, almost. You put these 6 cartridges into your Genesis. I don't know how this works exactly in terms of the connections. But yeah, you could have 6 cartridges without having to swap them out. That's a pretty cool contraption. Honestly, I think this would look cool with the, this would look cooler with the original model. Like, because it's longer. Imagine this contraption with the Genesis, the original model Genesis, and then next to it you got the Sega CD, the one that loads on the side. Oh, no, actually, the one that loads on the side is the one that goes with this model Genesis. Excuse me, I'm mixing up my histories here. Why is it not scrolling down? Why is it not scrolling down? Alright, there we go. No, that's not what I wanted either. Why is it being slow? Alright, here we go. Yeah, I don't know why it was lagging so much, but the stream is fine. That's all that matters. Yeah, so... Yeah, this is something I daydreamed of. Just having this cool room. This well-worn-in room. So, yeah, let's check these out. An American Tail, Fievel Goes West. I remember seeing this once on tape. Universal Studios Hollywood. Last Action Hammer Brothers. Bad photography content. Video games are like high tops. The new ones are cool, but after a while they start to stink. What? No, new ones are cool, but after a while they start to get comfortable. Software, etc. The only thing you'll have to lose playing Stunt Race FX. Oh, so yeah, so this is... Man, how nostalgic. Imagine going to a public school cafeteria and getting served food on an actual plastic tray, and with actual metal silverware. And there's peas, mashed potatoes with gravy, and animal flesh of some manner. Yeah, that's a gourmet dinner compared to what public school lunches by the time I graduated. You know, it's funny. They're selling the game with this edgy, but like the cars themselves are anthropomorphized and super cartoony, which I think is very appealing. Here we go. Oh wow! I'm glad I picked this Donkey Kong Editor's Choice Gold Game of the Month. This will be interesting. Boy, this sure brings back memories. All the fun of the arcade is here, plus a lot more. Donkey Kong has more features, including a save function, cool new cinemas, never before seen levels, and color using the Super Game Boy. I can't stress enough how good this game is. On the plain old Game Boy, it's okay, but on the TV, it really rocks. I'm buying a Super Game Boy just for this remake of an old classic. This game caught me totally by surprise. As the first title for the Super Game Boy, I am very impressed. The amount of color in the game is pretty amazing. I like the cute musical theme, and like all Mario games, DK has some of the finest control. The many new levels are welcome. The only reason this gets a lower score is that it's not impressive on a Game Boy. Even though it's still very good, I like this a lot. Now, welcome to our biggest surprise hit of the year. I had no idea this game could offer so much in such a tiny package. Donkey Kong brings back all the best aspects of the arcade while introducing new concepts, making the game even better. Although color definitely helps the score, the game looks and plays just fine on the old Game Boy. Great job, Nintendo. It looks as though you'll be selling plenty of Super Game Boys for this. And Sushi X, who is a fictional character who was sort of used sort of arbitrarily by different writers, as I understand. Good old Sushi has flipped his lid. I actually enjoyed a Game Boy cart. Now, one thing I do remember, Sushi X, if a Game Boy game was unusually good, they'd have Sushi X, because part of his character shtick was that he hated the Game Boy. So I remember when Pokemon came out, Sushi X reviewed it and he's like, hey, even I'm saying this is a great game. Because it's so easy, even at the time, to get caught up in the hype of it, of the multimedia the franchise, the merchandise. This is just Pokemon became big because it was a good game. Right? So, good old Sushi has flipped his lid. I actually enjoyed a Game Boy cart. True, I played it on the Super Game Boy in color, but the tried and true Donkey Kong plays great on the portable. The levels and even the sounds were faithfully reproduced. As for the graphics, I couldn't believe how close it looks. I highly suggest this cart. I can't believe I like a Game Boy cart. Then again, it wasn't on a green screen. Here's another multi-tap option for the Super Nintendo. Here's an ad for the Atari Jaguar. Let the games begin. This is just the beginning for the Atari Jaguar 64-bit system. There are a ton of new games in the wait for 94 designed to harness the Jaguar's insane power. A power that's rapidly making other video game systems history. History just like Atari a year or two after this. And they used the Atari Jaguar shell to make dental equipment. And then it got used as part of an insane, convoluted scandal in the retro game market by Mike Kennedy. But, oh, Brutal. Yeah, this game, it released on cartridge and on CD. Brutal is an anthropomorphic animal fighting game that I just remember this stood out to me because there's a character, there's like a llama character that they call the Dalai Lama. I'm like, really? That's so... I'm not offended or anything. It's just so like, yeah, they really lean into the animal puns on that one. Here's Way of the Warrior. Sonic Spinball. Now this will be interesting. Sonic Spinball is a game I loved the first level of, and I can't comment beyond that because the first level is all I've ever seen. And as Zipboy says, do the math. Oh, is this for... Oh, this is the Game Gear version. This is the Game Gear version. I have the Game Gear version. I have not played it. I turned it on once to make sure it works. Oh yeah, they do not give it good score. I'll discover it for myself. Sega Saturn. EGM gives you the specs and dives in. Yeah, this is EGM 2 or EGM Squared. This eventually became rebranded as Expert Gamer in the later 90s. Clay Fighter Tournament Edition. I was not aware that this was a thing. EGM's top games. Oh, I forgot there was a point where you could actually vote on what games would be the top games. Look at... Now this is some interesting... Summer CES was 100% Nintendo domination. Not to judge one system is better, the quarterman couldn't help but think that Nintendo just popped the white shirts at Sega and the chops. Thanks to Donkey Kong Country, which may be the best 16-bit side-scroller ever created for a game system, with a nice follow-through courtesy of the Ultra 64. Yeah, Donkey Kong Country came... Oh, here's an ad for it. Okay. Oh, yeah, I guess that's the Dalai Lama there. I have not seen this in, like... Hold on. This is 2024. Oh my gosh, 1994 was 30 years ago. 1994 I have not seen this in, like, 30 years, maybe. No, I seen it in like 2001. I was reading some old magazines, but I have not seen this in decades. But Zippy is asking, did I get Nintendo Power as a kid? I did not get Nintendo Power until like 98. I'd get an issue here or there. Around 99, I think, for a few months I was subscribed. But I think it was not until 2001 that I actually subscribed to Nintendo Power. Because at this point, and this is 94, I'm actually... I can give a lot of informed commentary on the Nintendo stuff I experienced on Game Boy, and the stuff I've gone back and played since then, stuff I might have played at a friend's house, or a family member's house, but I was Team Sega, not Team Sega, but I was on board with Sega. That's what I had. I had Game Gear. I was familiar with Sega and Sonic. A brutal Paws of Fury, Unleashed, Primal Power, Ancient Wisdom. Game Check unleashes tournament beasts of the martial arts in cinema style, full screen animation, focus strength, transcend weakness, jam with the wild things. Get your paws on this cool new Sega CD. It's so wild, it's brutal. Yeah, there's lots of like creature fighting games at that time. And you know, honestly, if you had a GameCube, you kind of had to have Nintendo Power because a lot of the mainstream gaming magazines it was fashionable to dislike Nintendo. So we have early coverage of the Saturn, which is the system I kind of had my eyes on because I'm familiar with Sega and Sonic, and I couldn't wait to see what a Sonic game on Saturn would be like. Yeah, keep dreaming, kiddo. Keep dreaming, Kid H. Sony PlayStation coming to the US. Now, this is interesting. I remember seeing PlayStation. Yeah, Saturn I was excited about. But PlayStation, I was like, Sony needs to stick to making TVs and stereos and Walkmans, like, because all these consoles are coming out from all these systems like Magna, well, I mean, not Magna, but like Philips and Panasonic, and I'm like, come on, just stick to making, these electronics companies need to stick to the CDs and making their electronics. Sega's Genesis 32X games are here. And this is like, at the time I was like, this doesn't look that, we're already talking about Sega Saturn being on the way, and now I'm supposed to be, and the whole thing about, oh, Sega Saturn, it's 32-bit, and then, like, why am I supposed to be excited about a 32-bit upgrade unit for the Genesis that looks less impressive than the 32-bit home console that are coming out just not too long afterwards. 5th degree black belt, Ninja Master, and you remind him of a 2x4. So Joe and Mac, Virtua caught by Sega, that became a big franchise. Oh, a Dune game. I'm not so busy. This year's a grind in terms of streaming for me, but down the line, I would love to get into some of the multimedia franchises. Rise Star the Shooting Star. Now, I played this on Wii Virtual Console for about a half hour, probably not even. The PlayStation Underground discs. I remember those really old ones. I think it was just called PlayStation Interactive CD. Or is that the same as PlayStation Underground? And there was like a Easter egg where if you hit the bumper buttons on the controller, it would flip over with like a little code. And if you put in that code, you could see trailers for other games. I remember playing the demo for Blast Chamber, which is available. Like, you can just go on a DOS shareware sites and download Blast Chamber. And I need to get myself. That's a game we need to play someday. But yeah, I remember playing this game a little bit, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. Rise Star looks like. Okay, yeah, they're really excited about that. Bubba and Sticks, a Bubblicious bubblegum tie-in game. The Firemen. That's interesting. Story of Thor. Dragon Ball Z 3. Huh. Yeah, this is interesting, because this, I don't even think Dragon Ball Z, like in the mid-90s, I remember watching a localized Dragon Ball movie, and then when Dragon Ball Z, my friends started talking about Dragon Ball Z, and I was like, oh yeah, I know that Dragon Ball, and like, they thought Dragon Ball was something I made up because they know about Dragon Ball Z. An Ultraman game for Game Boy. Bomberman GB. This game, is this the game that ended up being released as a tie-in with Wario, as Wario Blast? Is this that game? And then there's Yu Yu Hakusho. One of Japan's hottest animes is gearing up for intense battles in a fighting game by Treasure. Yeah, all I remember about Yu Yu Hakusho is there's this guy shoots people with spirit energy using his fingers, and then there's like a big buff tiger dude. That's all I remember about that show. Which means if I ever go to watch it again, it's like gonna be like, yeah, the real emphasis on this multi-tap. And interesting artwork. It's interesting, this artwork. I've never seen this take. This is very clearly American cartoon art of Bomberman, of the Japanese Bomberman design. And that's not something I'm used to seeing. Usually I either see the straight up the Japanese art, or they completely redesigned Bomberman to look like some kind of edgy Space Marine or something like that. Mansion of Hidden Souls. There's Outrunners. About halfway through the zine at this point. Let's Side Pocket. I've never played a poker sim, but a side pocket, a pool sim. But Zipboy saying they got underground discs when they got their PS1 as a kid. They guess they're bundled with new consoles. Not sure. It was fun to uncover the history of how discs were distributed back in the 90s. This is early internet. Yeah, I remember one called Interactive CD. And did the cover look like sort of like paint splotches? Do you remember that at all? Yeah, that's how mine, I remember, ended up looking. Now, Tecmo Super Baseball, and Genesis, some Mighty Morphin Power Rangers contest. Oh, here's Lord of the Rings pre-film franchise. Oh, you know what? I had at least one of the. I think you're talking about the same CDs. I remember mine being called very specifically Interactive CD, though. I remember it being called PlayStation Underground. Interesting. So you have the Super Star Wars games. You have Donkey Kong Country. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on this for when we do our Donkey Kong Country coverage in the future. Let's scroll down through here. Let's see what we got. There's Stunt Race FX coverage. Rock and Roll Racing. Red Line... Black Throne, I never heard of that. Ranma 1/2. Anything? Is it? Yeah. I don't know what they were thinking bringing this game out to the North American audience in 1994, but bless them for doing so, because I think this game, I never watched this show, or if there's a source material manga, I don't know, I never read that either, but I became aware of this in the later 90s. It's kind of interesting to me. Was there any official localization of this anime? Like, was there subtitled or I don't think there was subtitled or a dub of this anime at that point that was official. What I remember, because like my brother, I remember overhearing a little bit. There was a point where my brother was into bootleg anime tapes because his friends were into it. I remember like just like multi-generation copy tapes of like Akira, Lupin the Third. But as Zipboy is saying that on the demo CD they played one of their favorite. I never played Spyro. I know there's re-release remakes. Like I want to get into those sometime, that are available on Switch. What was it? Yeah, there were just so many games. I just never got around to Spyro. The demo discs I was playing were much earlier. They had like trailers for Jumping Flash 2, which I never actually got to play, and the like. But yeah, I don't think there was any. The source material was not officially available in North America, I don't believe. So it's interesting that they brought the game over anyway. So the Ren and Stimpy show Time Warp. I had the Game Boy Ren and Stimpy game from this time period, one of the first Game Boy games I got. And I remember that voice sample of Ren saying, "You idiot," when he's floating out into space and you have to leave the space station as Stimpy to go after him. Alright. The way the Power Rangers, like their suited figures were over like their unsuited bodies, I like thought that they were like some kind of weird super deformed versions of themselves. I'm like, I don't remember a game like that. Bill Preston, you remember that too? What the those demo discs I was talking about? Brain Lord. Now that's interesting placement. They happen to have the ad for Brain Lord right before. And you know, a lot of these RPGs, a lot of these Japanese RPGs, they like to use this particular image. And if you're not familiar what this is, not the floating island part, but there's this sort of this type of tower. This is based on a sort of, I don't know if it's quite medieval, but it's based on these European artistic romanticization depictions of the Tower of Babel from the Old Testament of the Bible. And because that's how the tower looks in Saga or Final Fantasy Legend, as it was called. Oh, the soundbite? Oh yeah, you idiot. Yeah, I never got that far in that game. I don't think I got past the first stage. That was one of the first games I ever traded in to Funko Land. And I actually traded that in towards Pac-Man for Game Boy. And at that day, I was like, either I could get Pac-Man or Donkey Kong. I'll go ahead and get Pac-Man since I was more interested in that to begin with. Taz and Escape from Mars. Yeah, it's like one of those games. It's like, yeah, let's make a game based on a kid's cartoon. Mind you, a cartoon that's probably a little suited for slightly older kids. Maybe 11, 12, tweenish. Even though most of the really crazy jokes are only going to be understood by adults anyway. Revengers of Vengeance. I like how over the top that name is. I remember seeing this dog for World Cup USA 94. I remember seeing this dog all over the place, and I thought at first that this was one of the dogs from Two Stupid Dogs. So Mega Man 5 for Game Boy. Shining Force for Game Gear. Huh. It's interesting. With a stroke of the brush, a generation gap is crossed. Star Trek Master Series 94 edition. Okay, so they just know, okay, nerds read this magazine, we'll put some Star Trek stuff in here even though it's not a game. You didn't see as a lot, you'd see, I think, a little more of that later on. Super Punch-Out! I never even, played. You know, Uniracers, I think that's available on Switch Online's, Super Nintendo library? Great Circus Mystery. Mickey and Minnie's circus performers have disappeared. Interesting. Sonic Blastman 2. Brainies. Akira. The Mask. Man, lots of multimedia tie-ins with Akira, The Mask, and so forth. The Punisher, another tie-in. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. That's him. Mickey Mania. Zero the Kamikaze Squirrel. Scooby-Doo, Beavis and Butthead. Flink. Never... There's Jeopardy. Oh, another Akira game. Here's Gex. I remember seeing that on someone I knew had this on 3DO. And there's just lots of... Oh, here... Okay. Darn, I saw this devil guy and thought it was going to be for Devilish. That's a game I'd actually play. I never actually played Devilish, but Gizmo's Games and Gadgets. Jurassic logo for NBA expansion team. Okay. Wait a second. Now this is interesting if you've never heard of this. I think I heard of this. I heard of this but never got to try it because I didn't have a Genesis, but it's your third trip to Blockbuster this week and still no Mortal Kombat 2. How many times has this happened to you? You either end up renting a game you didn't want or you walk away empty-handed to spend another night with Sonic the Hedgehog. Finally, it seems your troubles may be over. Sega of America and Blockbuster Video have announced plans to join forces to put an end to this retail nightmare. The two companies are presently test marketing at select Blockbusters, a system that permits video game software to be stored electronically at retail stores and downloaded on demand onto specially designed reprogrammable video game cartridges. The games would look and play exactly like standard game cartridges, but without the weight. Here's the hottest new carts, costing in the neighborhood of $65. The smartest shoppers are choosing trial by rental before dropping their dough up to discover that a game stinks. The system will get those people the games they want. If it all goes well with the test market, this could be available to all rental retailers as early as next year. Yeah, right before games head in the direction of CDs. Yeah, True Lies. Looks like we're at, when you start seeing all these game listing stuff, so you know you're at the end. We'll probably have a good word puzzle thing at the end for us to. Oh no word puzzle. All right. So how about? Yeah, that'll do it for now. Where's my... Oh, there we go. I'm on the wrong screen. Yeah, so that'll do it for tonight. What I think we're going to do next time is we're going to play some Revenge of the Gator and Donkey Kong. and we're going to read some more magazines about Donkey Kong 94. I have a very specific, with my streaming plans, trying to beat 1 world per day of Donkey Kong. That's something that I think could go very, very well. So, let's see who's up and around. Yeah, if you hang out with me for this raid, you're going to get a bunch of channel points here. And I will have to come up... if anyone's paying attention to some of the direction my storyline is going in, there'll be things to spend those channel points on very soon. So I'm going to send you over to formerly Kyle TX500, now Janked Jesus, who is playing a Nintendo 64 Variety Marathon. So I'll see you all next time, and thank you very much for watching.